Chapter 21-22. 21-22 Declaration of Wars. 21-22 Declaration of War. Yang Ruoxu, Heavenly Abyss and the other two exchanged glances without saying anything. There were many things that everyone had a tacit understanding. Given Su Zimo's methods earlier on, it was clear that this lad was deliberately hiding his strength. Prior to this, the four Heaven Immortals were tempted to recruit Su Zimo into the sect. The stronger Su Zimo was, the more resolute the four of them were. Initially, some of the four of them were hesitant when Prince Yuanzhua arrived menacingly. But now the four Heaven Immortals wanted to recruit Su Zimo even more. Notwithstanding his methods, his temperament, calmness and decisiveness to kill were enough to tell that this lad's future accomplishments were limitless. The four immortal sects were not afraid of the great Qing immortal kingdom. Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu and the other two Heaven Immortals were naturally not wary of Prince Yuanzhua's status. On the other side, Prince Yuanzhua's expression was dark as he looked at the figure in the water barrier. Gritting his teeth, he cursed hatefully, "Too useless trash." The four Heaven Immortals glanced sideways at Prince Yuanzhua. Prince Yuanzhua was filled with confidence and boasted arrogantly in front of everyone, only to be on the receiving end of a setback. One could imagine the frustration in his heart. Sensing the gazes of the four Heaven Immortals, Prince Yuanzhua realized that he had lost his composure and hurriedly took a deep breath to steady himself. "That's nothing much." Prince Yuanzhua pretended to be calm and said, "It's just two grade 8 Earth Immortals. It's fine if they die. There are still 110 execution guards in the valley. Let's see how much longer he can last." The four Heaven Immortals did not reply. However, the four of them knew that Su Zimo was still in a dangerous situation. The reason why he could kill 2 execution guards in the blink of an eye was mainly because he made use of a movement technique similar to teleportation to kill them by surprise. As for the remaining 110 execution guards, they were divided into 10 teams and each team had 11 execution guards. Furthermore, there were at least 7 grade 9 Earth Immortals in each group. This meant that no matter which group Su Zimo encountered, he would have to face 11 execution guards, most of them grade 9 Earth Immortals. The difference in strength between both parties was so great that Su Zimo would have no chance of winning once a battle broke out. Even back when the four Heaven Immortals were at the level 6 Earth Essence realm, if they were put in Su Zimo's current predicament, they would have no way of breaking out of the situation as well. Furthermore, once he fought against one of the groups, the other 9 groups would definitely rush over the moment they saw the messenger talismans and form a trap. At that time, Su Zimo would not be able to escape even if he had wings. Although the four Heaven Immortals wanted Su Zimo to join their sects, there was a prerequisite. At the very least, he had to survive till the end of the Immortal Sect selection. Outside Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, a plain and low-key carriage rode through the clouds and entered the crowd stealthily. Such a carriage was extremely common in the cultivation world. Some paragons and monster incarnates would usually travel in flood dragon carriages or birds, ancient chariots, auspicious clouds and phenomenons. Naturally, carriages as such would not attract much attention. 2 women sat in the carriage. It was the plain-robed woman from the Zixuan Immortal Kingdom and her maidservant. Furthermore, all the cultivators in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range were focused on Su Zimo in the valley. After a period of silence in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, many cultivators snapped out of their stupor and exclaimed as well. The clamor was like a marketplace. Su Zimo is way too ruthless. Indeed, that grade 8 Earth Immortal took out his messenger talisman but did not even have time to tear it apart. Fufu, in my opinion, Su Zimo is courting death. This way, there's even less of a chance that Prince Yuanzhua will let him off. Within the carriage. After listening for a while, the plain-robed woman understood what happened. "Princess, you've studied a lot and know everything." Earlier on, they were discussing Su Zimo's movement technique that is similar to teleportation. "What is that?" the girl asked curiously. The plain-robed woman pondered for a moment. "I've never heard of such a cultivation technique in the cultivation dermic formulations of the human race. However, the dragon race has a secret skill that is not imparted to outsiders. When cultivated to its limits, one can flash 9 times in succession." "That's amazing!" the girl exclaimed with widened eyes. Thereafter, she turned her head slightly and asked in confusion, But how does this person know the secret skill of the dragon race? The plain-robed woman's expression changed, as though she recalled something but did not explain. She reached out with her slender hand and lifted the curtain of the window slightly, looking into the valley. In the valley, the skinny young man with a withered yellow face stood beside the corpses of 2 execution guards. His head was slightly lowered and he was motionless, deep in thought. Suddenly, the young man raised his head. Right in front of everyone, the young man's figure and face changed rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a tall and handsome scholar. Is that his original appearance? The girl blinked. He does look much more pleasing to the eye now. In midair, Prince Yuanzhua clenched his fists tightly and was filled with killing intent when he saw the face that he hated to the core. Right then, the scholar in the valley did something that shocked everyone. The scholar looked at the skies and raised his palm slowly, placing it beneath his neck in a beheading gesture. This. What's he doing? Is that a provocation? This person is truly audacious. He clearly knows that Prince Yuanzhua is already here, but he still dares to provoke him like this. Is he worried that death won't come soon enough for him? The discussions in the crowd grew louder. Prince Yuanzhua was so angry that he laughed instead and nodded repeatedly. Good, good, good. How dare you provoke me? Once I capture you alive, I'll use all means to torture you. Su Zimo, you might not have realized it yet, but 110 Earth execution guards are waiting for you in the valley. The 4 heaven immortals had different expressions. Initially, their impression of Su Zimo was that he was an extremely low-key, cautious and even somewhat soft-hearted person. But now, this person had become extremely sharp. Princess, this person is way too arrogant. In the carriage, the girl pouted. He hasn't realized the danger he's about to face and is still in the mood to provoke Prince Yuanzhua. Provoke. The plain-robed woman shook her head gently. I think that his action is more like a declaration of war. Declaration of war. The girl was surprised and asked, who is he declaring war on? What exactly is he trying to do? The plain-robed woman did not reply and merely looked at the figure in the valley. In the valley, Su Zimo put away the storage bags of the 2 execution guards. Thereafter, in front of everyone, he changed his appearance once more and became a tall and burly man. Su Zimo looked at the skies. Although there was a water barrier and he could not see what was going on outside. However, he knew that Prince Yuanzhua was definitely watching him from outside. Su Zimo grinned at the skies and ran not far away. Chapter 21-23. 21-23 Striking once again. 21-23 Striking once again. In midair. When Heaven Immortal White Sea saw that, he suddenly said, that's not a bad idea. There's a chance he can break out of this situation. Heaven Abyss and the others nodded slightly. Now that Su Zimo had changed his appearance once more, the execution guards in the valley might not be able to recognize him. Heaven Immortal Green Peak said, however, that lad's cultivation realm is still at the level 6 Earth Essence realm. That's a flaw. Yang Ruoxu said, as long as he's careful and tries his best to avoid close contact with the execution guards, they shouldn't release their spirit consciousnesses to scan him intentionally. Just as everyone was discussing, someone suddenly said, look, Su Zimo is about to encounter a group of execution guards. Everyone was invigorated and looked over hurriedly. In the valley, Su Zimo, who had transformed into a middle-aged burly man, was far from the group of execution guards. The 11 execution guards saw Su Zimo from afar. When they saw that it was a middle-aged burly man, they averted their gazes and did not pay much attention to him. Heaven Abyss and the others heaved a sigh of relief. As long as Su Zimo left silently, he would not be discovered. However, right then, Su Zimo in the valley walked towards the execution guards after seeing them. What was he trying to do? The 4 Heaven Immortals frowned at the same time as a question flashed through their minds. Did he want to test the other party? However, this method of testing was way too risky and unnecessary. Or, the 4 Heaven Immortals thought of a possibility but felt that it was unrealistic unless Su Zimo was crazy. Princess, look. Su Zimo took the initiative to walk towards the execution guards. Within the carriage, the girl asked in surprise with widened eyes. What's he doing? Does he have a death wish? He's going to kill. The plain-robed woman's beautiful eyes were deep as she murmured softly, as though she could read Zimo's intentions. In the valley. After killing the 2 execution guards, Zimo thought about many things. He did not know who leaked the secret. He could not figure out right away how the execution guards could recognize him either. However, he was certain of a few things. First, the 2 execution guards were definitely not the only ones in this valley. Since Prince Xuanzhua came personally, he must have brought enough manpower to suppress him. Second, the stance of the 4 immortal sects was unclear. However, at the very least, they were not on the side of Prince Xuanzhua. Otherwise, given Prince Xuanzhua's status, the 4 immortal sects could have handed Zimo over without any trouble instead of having to send execution guards into the valley. Furthermore, the execution guards did not have coiling dragon badges with them. Third, if he wanted to break free from the threat of Prince Xuanzhua or the Great Qing Immortal Kingdom, the only way was to join the 4 immortal sects and seek protection. If it was in the past, all he had to do was reveal some of his methods and obtain enough coiling dragon badges. But now that Prince Xuanzhua had brought people over personally, he could no longer hide his strength. He had to reveal his powerful talent, terrifying combat strength and unlimited potential to attract the attention of the 4 immortal sects. Of course, the secret of the Green Lotus true body could not be exposed. Otherwise, he would be killed no matter which sect he joined. Therefore, the moment Zimo left earlier on, he was already prepared to start a massacre in the valley. Him and Prince Xuanzhua were like fire and water. Since Prince Xuanzhua had chased a coiling dragon mountain range with the execution guards and wanted to leave him with no way out, he would not be merciful either. Initially, Zimo wanted to transform into the appearance of the dead execution guards. However, he did not understand the 2 execution guards at all. Even if he transformed into the exact same appearance as them, in terms of voice, habits and actions, he would still easily reveal flaws. There was a flaw in the Trinity Auspicious Jade's transformation to begin with. That was his cultivation realm. Zimo did not intend to hide it from everyone. However, as long as he got close to the other party, he could get rid of them as quickly as possible. There were 7 grade 9 and 4 grade 8 Earth Immortals. Zimo walked over and swept his spirit consciousness, quickly checking the cultivation realms of the 11 execution guards. Initially, the execution guards did not pay much attention to Zimo. However, they could not help but frown when they saw the middle-aged burly man walking over. Fellow Taoists, you're looking for a skinny cultivator with a withered face, right? Before the execution guards could ask, Zimo spoke first and asked loudly. You saw him? An execution guard's eyes lit up as he asked hurriedly. Over there. Zimo pointed to the side but did not stop walking. He got closer and closer to the execution guards and said, There are 2 more execution guards over there fighting against that cultivator. At that point, the many execution guards no longer had any doubts. Humph. One of them said coldly, Li Xian and Zhang Mao must be trying to fight for credit. They didn't even release a messenger talisman. In that short period of time, Zimo had already arrived less than 100 feet away from the many execution guards. The execution guard commander of the group frowned and did not say anything. For some reason, he felt his heart skip a beat, as though a calamity was about to descend upon him. His gaze landed on the middle-aged burly man and he swept his spirit consciousness across. Level 6 Earth Essence Realm. That cultivation realm was a little too low to take part in the Immortal Sect selection. However, this person was rather capable to be able to last till now. Something's not right. Suddenly, as though he recalled something, the execution guard commander raised his head and pointed in the direction of the middle-aged burly man. You are. Before he could finish, Zimo's figure suddenly appeared before him. The distance between the 2 of them was extremely close. Poof! Zimo extended his finger and tapped the glabella of the execution guard commander gently. A single finger penetrated that person's consciousness. No matter how high his cultivation realm was, he would die on the spot if his essence spirit was pierced. An uproar broke out outside the valley. It was not only the remaining 10 execution guards. Even the millions of cultivators watching were shocked. Prior to this, No one expected that this grade 6 Earth Immortal named Su Zimo would choose to attack instead of dodging the pursuit of the execution guards. What was he trying to do? Was he trying to challenge 11 execution guards as a grade 6 Earth Immortal? On the battlefield. The moment Su Zimo attacked, it was like thunder. With the help of the true Dragon 9 flashes, he closed in rapidly and killed the execution guard commander of the group with a single finger. Thereafter, his figure flashed once more. At that moment, the other 10 execution guards had just reacted and withdrew their execution sabers one after another. They wanted to attack but realized that Su Zimo had vanished. Poof! Behind another grade 9 Earth Immortal, Su Zimo's figure appeared and pierced his skull with a finger again, shattering his essence spirit. Another person was killed by the true Dragon 9 flashes. Fast. It was too fast. With the sudden change, the few execution guards were flustered and their gazes could not keep up with Su Zimo's movement technique. In the blink of an eye, 2 grade 9 Earth Immortals died. Swish! The execution guards on both sides of the dead men were shocked. However, they reacted extremely quickly and slashed in reverse towards Su Zimo. In a flash, Su Zimo vanished once more. At the level 6 Earth Essence realm, his essence spirit was at level 8 and he could already flash 5 times in succession. Including the 2 times he killed Li Xian and Zhang Mao previously, this was already the 5th time. Chapter 21-24 21-24 Annihilation 2124 Annihilation. Form up with groups of 3, back to back. In the chaos, an execution guard shouted. The remaining 9 execution guards moved and formed 3 formations instantly. That way, they could ensure that every single execution guard had their backs facing each other with their blades facing outwards. Those who could become Earth execution guards were all top Earth Immortal experts. After the unified training of the Great Qing Immortal Kingdom, they were in charge of punishment and killing and had chemistry with one another. Before long, they regained their composure and formed formations. Although the formation was simple, it was extremely effective. No matter which direction Su Zimo appeared from, someone would be facing him. Indeed, when Su Zimo appeared once more, he was right in front of an execution guard and was extremely close. Kill! The execution guard roared and his blood chi burst forth with the sound of a tsunami. It surged as he raised the execution saber, slashing down at Su Zimo. Tsunami blood. The cultivators watching were shocked. A grade 9 Earth Immortal channeled his blood chi that was like a tsunami and released a terrifying power that a grade 6 Earth Immortal would definitely not be able to take head-on. Furthermore, the execution guard did not hold back at all and revealed an extremely brilliant saber technique. Instantly, dozens of sharp saber shadows appeared in midair as the saber chi swept towards Su Zimo. The slash counterattack was way too stunning. Not only did it release a terrifying killing power, it even sealed Su Zimo's escape path. The crowd exclaimed. Even the 4 Heaven Immortals nodded to themselves. Given the capabilities of this execution guard, he would definitely stand out as well if he participated in the Immortal Sect selection. As the 4 of them had expected, Su Zimo was able to catch the execution guards off guard by relying on his disguise and taking the initiative to attack. However, as long as the remaining execution guards reacted, they would counterattack violently. At that time, Su Zimo would be in danger. Even if Su Zimo had any trump cards that could defend against that slash, as long as they exchanged blows and there was a slight delay, the remaining 8 execution guards would seize the opportunity to swarm forward. How was Su Zimo going to defend? What a pity! Heaven Abyss shook his head gently and said softly. Although it was commendable for him to take the initiative to attack the execution guard, this lad's actions were way too risky and reckless. It was truly unwise for him to fall into a dead end because of his fervor. Right then, in the valley, Su Zimo turned a blind eye to the dozens of saber shadows that were slashing at him. He did not dodge or avoid and suddenly opened his mouth. Roar! A deafening roar burst forth from the depths of Su Zimo's throat. The roar resembled a dragon's roar and a phoenix's cry as it reverberated through the valley. It possessed a supreme will and seemed to be above all living beings, looking down on the world. Dragon Roar Secret Skill. The cultivators in the vicinity of the valley were caught off guard and shuddered when they heard that roar. The 9 execution guards in the center of the battlefield suffered an even greater impact. The grade 9 Earth Immortal that attacked shuddered. His blood chi that was initially surging dissipated in a chaotic manner because of the roar. The dozens of saber shadows in midair dissipated instantly as well. The grade 9 Earth Immortal had a pained expression and felt extremely terrible. His blood chi flowed in reverse and his entire body seemed like it was about to explode. Even his mind was buzzing and blank, let alone attacking Su Zimo. If that was the case for a grade 9 Earth Immortal who had cultivated to tsunami blood, it was even worse for the other two who had formed a 3-man formation with him. The body of one of the grade 8 Earth Immortals was shattered on the spot and a blood mist spread. Although the other was a grade 9 Earth Immortal, he did not manage to survive either. Blood oozed from all 7 orifices and he had a dull gaze. His essence spirit was already shattered. The person's exposed skin was filled with blood scars in a shocking manner. Although the remaining 2 formations were slightly further away, the grade 8 Earth Immortals were also killed on the spot by Su Zimo's Dragon Roar secret skill. With a roar, 5 of the remaining 9 execution guards died in the blink of an eye. Although the remaining 4 people were all grade 9 Earth Immortals, they were injured as well and were in a daze, unable to react for a moment. A single roar shattered the execution guard group. The roar in the valley was isolated by the water barrier and could not be heard from outside. However, at that moment, the entire coiling Dragon Mountain range was silent. It was as though everyone's throats were squeezed as they looked at the scene in the valley in shock. What just happened? I'm not sure. Su Zimo seemed to have opened his mouth and those people seemed to be rooted to the spot. Immediately after, someone's body exploded. What's that? A sound domain secret skill? Have you seen a sound domain secret skill that can roar a grade 9 Earth Immortal to death? Even the cultivators watching outside the valley were dumbfounded. In midair, the 4 Heaven Immortals were dumbfounded as well. This Heaven Immortal White Sea had a hesitant expression. Even he was unsure and probed. This is a sound domain secret skill. Probably. Yang Ruoxu nodded and hesitated. That was because even he had never seen such a terrifying sound domain power. In the valley, after Su Zimo released the Dragon Roar secret skill, he lunged forward and snatched the execution saber in front of him, slashing in reverse. This grade 9 Earth Immortal who had cultivated tsunami blood was cleaved into 2 by Su Zimo and his essence spirit was dead. There were 3 left. Wielding the execution saber, Su Zimo strode forward and raised his saber. Descending from the skies, he enveloped the remaining 3 execution guards. Splash! It was as though a blood rain had descended from the skies. The 3 execution guards were surrounded by an endless blood sea. In the middle of the sea stood a mountain filled with corpses. Everywhere the blade passed, it let out a buzzing sound, as though malevolent ghosts were crying and evil wolves were howling. A mountain of corpses with a sea of blood, shrouded by the wails of ghosts and the howls of wolves. The blood sea surged and created raging tides that devoured the 3 execution guards. Su Zimo's slash was fused with the Azura Saber and Sea Calming Manual. He created many intents with a single slash and stacked them continuously. It was even more terrifying and stunning than the slash of the execution guard earlier on. Relying on the Green Lotus True Body, Su Zimo had abandoned his saber for many years. However, his saber technique was still terrifying. The remaining 3 execution guards finally snapped out of their stupor and waved their execution sabers, condensing divine powers to defend. However, Su Zimo's saber intent was formed. Coupled with the fact that the 3 execution guards were stunned by the Dragon Roar secret skill, be it their bodies or essence spirits, they were shaken violently and could not unleash even half of their usual combat strength. They could not defend against Su Zimo's saber intent at all. In just a few breaths, the 3 execution guards could not hold on any longer. A vicious glint flashed through the eyes of one of them as he channeled a secret skill and burned his essence spirit and lifespan. A terrifying potential burst forth from his body as he broke free from the blood sea. When he left the blood sea, he did not attack Su Zimo. Instead, he tore the messenger talisman apart right away. A red light surged into the skies and exploded rapidly. After doing that, the execution guard could not hold on any longer and died before Su Zimo could attack. The remaining 2 execution guards were devoured by the blood sea as well, turning into corpses at the foot of the mountain. 11 execution guards were completely annihilated. Chapter 21-25. 21-25 Encirclement. 2125 Encirclement. Millions of cultivators on Coiling Dragon Mountain Range were shocked as they looked at the figure in the valley as though they had seen a ghost. How ruthless! 11 execution guards are dead. Did the entire process even take 10 breaths? I don't think so. These execution guards only had time to release a single messenger talisman before they were annihilated. This scene had exceeded everyone's expectations. Even the 4 Heaven Immortals did not think highly of Su Zimo taking the initiative to look for the execution guards. In the eyes of other cultivators, it seemed like he had a death wish and was striking a stone with an egg. However, who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, 11 execution guards, including 7 Grade 9 Earth Immortals, would die on the spot? Was this person truly only a Grade 6 Earth Immortal? How could a Grade 6 Earth Immortal release such a terrifying killing power? Could this person be the reincarnation of a perfected immortal? In a carriage in the crowd, a girl who looked like a porcelain doll opened her mouth and stared in silence for a long time. Princess, princess, what methods did Su Zimo use? How did he kill Grade 9 Earth Immortals with a single sound? A moment later, the girl could not help but ask. The plain-robed woman said, "It should be a sound domain secret skill, but I don't know what it is exactly." Up till this point of her cultivation, she had read countless books. However, if she could not hear that sound, it was impossible for her to guess its origin. In reality, even if she could hear Su Zimo's Dragon Roar secret skill, she would not be able to guess it. The Dragon Roar secret skill had fused too many sound domain secret skills and had already evolved into a killing method unique to Su Zimo. The girl thought for a moment and suddenly said, "If Su Zimo does the same and changes his appearance to get close to the other execution guards, he can still start a massacre. That's going to be difficult." The plain-robed woman shook her head. These execution guards will definitely be prepared when they receive the news. No matter how Su Zimo's appearance changes, his cultivation realm will always be at the level 6 Earth Essence realm. As long as they are careful whenever they see a Grade 6 Earth Immortal approach, it'll be difficult for him to succeed. Pausing for a moment, she continued, "Furthermore, although the power of that sound domain secret skill is terrifying, it will definitely take a huge toll on the cultivator and he won't be able to release it again within a short period of time. He can't use his movement technique that's similar to teleportation either. Without those 2 trump cards, it'll be difficult for him to take on the remaining 100 execution guards head-on." In midair, Prince Yuanzhua had a cold expression and remained silent. The execution guards were slain consecutively in front of millions of cultivators and various factions. That made his face burn. From time to time, cultivators would look over. Every single gaze seemed to be mocking him. Prince Yuanzhua's expression was extremely dark. Even Lone Star beside him felt uncomfortable and consoled hurriedly. "Your Highness, don't be angry. The news has already spread and the remaining 10 teams are gathering in that direction. That lad won't be able to escape." Prince Yuanzhua closed his eyes and composed himself. A moment later, he opened his eyes and looked at the millions of cultivators below, sneering. A bunch of ignorant fools, shocked by something as trivial as such. Prince Yuanzhua did not hide his voice intentionally, and it spread to every corner of Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. The cultivators who were initially discussing frowned. Cultivators of lower statuses and cultivation realms naturally did not dare to say anything. Some of the Sect disciples did not dare to say anything either. Almost everyone in the crowd were Black Immortals and Earth Immortals. Cultivators of the cultivation realms of Prince Yuanzhua and Lone Star were completely invincible here. Furthermore, with Prince Yuanzhua's status, apart from the 4 immortal sects and 3 immortal kingdoms, who else would dare to challenge him? Prince Yuanzhua pointed to the valley and said proudly, "Once we capture Su Zimo alive, I'll let everyone witness with their own eyes what sort of torture he's going to endure. I'm going to let the world know the consequences of offending me and the Great Qing Immortal Kingdom. The dignity of the Great Qing Immortal Kingdom is not to be challenged." The 4 Heaven Immortals were expressionless and sneered internally. Although Prince Yuanzhua's words seemed like they were meant for the cultivators below, in reality, he was expressing his determination to the 4 immortal sections. In the valley, After killing the 11 execution guards, Su Zimo put away their storage bags. He had expected the execution guards to spread the news. In fact, he had no intention of stopping it. Even without the execution guard's message, some cultivators who witnessed the battle earlier on and would definitely inform the other execution guards. In front of everyone, Su Zimo acted unusually and did not leave. Instead, he reverted to his original appearance and assumed a lotus position, resting with his eyes closed while waiting quietly on the spot. What's he doing? Why isn't he escaping yet? Is he waiting to be surrounded by the execution guards? Could he be thinking of surrendering? I'm not sure. Every single action of that person is beyond my imagination. When the 4 heaven immortals saw that, their expressions turned grim. Nobody could read Su Zimo's mind. This time round, even the plain-robed woman could not guess. The messenger talisman earlier on had not only attracted the remaining 100 execution guards. In the valley, some cultivators who were confident in their strength and were invincible, or even those who had no hope of reaching the final ranking, rushed over as well. A group of execution guards had been mobilized for an encirclement in the Immortal Sect selection. Everyone was curious as to why a single cultivator could attract such a huge lineup. The execution guards are here too. In midair, a young man in luxurious robes had a bright gaze and lightning coiled around his body with a torrential aura. It was Prince Yunlei of the Zishen Immortal Kingdom. Strange, where did that sickly young guard go? Princess Scarlet Rainbow murmured softly in confusion. Thereafter she pouted her lips slightly. Forget it. I'll watch the show over there first. More and more cultivators gathered over. Before long, a group of execution guards finally arrived. It's Su Zimo. Who you and the others are dead. Be careful, everyone. The execution guard commander in the lead was extremely cautious. He raised his arm and gestured for the execution guards behind him to not get too close. He took out a messenger talisman from his storage bag and tore it apart once more, summoning the other execution guard teams. The remaining teams were nearby and would arrive before long. Su Zimo, are you prepared to surrender? The execution guard commander in the lead asked slowly. Su Zimo was still sitting on the spot motionlessly. In fact, he did not even open his eyes. Commander Sure, what are we waiting for? Let's just go and suppress him. Another execution guard had a fiery temper and could not hold it in any longer. There's no hurry. Wait for everyone to arrive first. Commander Sure said in a deep voice. This man must have some tricks up his sleeves to be able to kill Hu Yu's group. We must not underestimate him. Before long, a second execution guard team appeared. Thereafter, a third and a fourth. The remaining execution guard teams arrived one after another, and the encirclement was formed. Chapter 21-26. 21-26 Divine Power Explosion. 21-26 Divine Power Explosion. In the valley. There were 9 teams left from the execution guards, and there were a total of 99 people. All of them were present and surrounded Su Zimo. Every single execution guard wore the black gold feather armor and wielded the execution saber. Their expressions were cold and they exuded a steely killing intent. Not far away, many cultivators who were taking part in the Immortal Sect selection arrived one after another. Among them were the 2 strongest paragons of the Immortal Sect selection this time round, Prince Yunlei and Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Given the number of coiling dragon badges you have, you're most likely going to be first this time round, Princess. When Prince Yunlei saw Princess Scarlet Rainbow, he nodded slightly and chatted casually. Although the 2 of them had met in the valley before, they had a tacit understanding and did not choose to attack each other because they were wary. Princess Scarlet Rainbow was wary of Prince Yunlei's thunder secret skill. Prince Yunlei was not confident of defeating Princess Scarlet Rainbow either, and his movement technique was weaker than hers. There's no difference between first and second. Princess Scarlet Rainbow waved it off nonchalantly. Thereafter, she pointed to the green-robed cultivator surrounded by the execution guards and asked, "That's Su Zimo?" "I think so." Prince Yunlei shook his head. "However, this person is only a grade 6 Earth Immortal. I can't understand why the execution guards mobilized so many people." Grade 6 Earth Immortal. Princess Scarlet Rainbow was slightly stunned in deep thought. Suddenly, Prince Yunlei smiled. However, this person's guts are not bad. He can still maintain his composure despite being targeted by so many execution guards. Right then, Su Zimo opened his eyes and stood up slowly. Is everyone here? Su Zimo surveyed his surroundings and asked indifferently. What are you talking about? Commander Shi asked with a frown, not understanding why Su Zimo would ask such a question. Are you guys all that Yuan's was sent in? Su Zimo raised his brow slightly. How arrogant! I alone am enough to kill you. An execution guard stood out with a cold gaze. Fufu, you must be scared out of your wits, spouting nonsense here. Another execution guard commander sneered. Su Zimo did not refute. Instead, he said with a calm expression, It's good that you're all here. It'll save me the trouble of looking for you guys one by one. The execution guards present were first stunned before bursting into laughter. The cultivators watching in the valley looked at Su Zimo strangely as well, as though they were looking at a lunatic. When he heard that, Prince Yunlei could not help but laugh as well and shake his head. Who does this person think he is? Even I can't escape unscathed against so many execution guards, let alone a grade 6 Earth Immortal like him. Why? You want to challenge all of us as a grade 6 Earth Immortal? An execution guard commander laughed wildly and asked mockingly. I'm not challenging you guys. After a brief pause, Su Zimo said slowly, I'll kill all of you and bury you here. Since you wanted my life, you'll have to pay the price for it. Before his sentence was finished, Su Zimo roared into the skies and released his innate divine power, the six-tusked divine strength. Behind him, a gigantic divine elephant with a terrifying might vaguely appeared. It had 6 white and sharp elephant tusks and was raising its trunk, roaring into the skies. The divine elephant seemed to have fused with Su Zimo's figure. Even at the Earth Immortal realm, Su Zimo was unable to unleash the 6-tusked divine strength to its limits. However, for gigantic divine elephant tusks still appeared beneath his ribs. With the augmentation of that innate divine power, the power of his body, essence spirit and bloodline increased by 4 times. Su Zimo's essence spirit was at the level 8 Earth Essence realm to begin with. With the augmentation of the 6-tusked divine elephant, the power of his essence spirit was comparable to a level 9 Earth Essence realm. At that moment, the tremendous power surging within Su Zimo's body shocked even the surrounding execution guards. Attack! Suddenly, Commander Shi roared. All the execution sabers were unsheathed as the execution guards swarmed forward. Everyone, watch out. Don't kill that lad. His Highness wants him alive. An execution guard commander reminded loudly. 99 execution guards attacking at the same time. What sort of a scene was that? Even if everyone released a single slash and a divine power each, no one would be able to defend against them. However, because of Prince Yuan's orders, these people restrained themselves and did not dare to use their full strength. Su Zimo sneered and channeled his essence spirit to conjure hand seals. Phew! 4 balls of flames rapidly condensed beside him. The Immortal Dao Fire, Buddhist Dao Fire, Fiend Dao Fire and Southern Mingli Fire. The 4 balls of flames floated in midair and emitted a terrifying heat. Even the execution guards who charged forward felt their faces heat up. However, that temperature was still within the tolerance of many execution guards. It's just the light of a firefly. An execution guard commander sneered and channeled his greater divine power, shouting, Watch my great flood technique. In the crowd, more than 10 execution guards channeled their essence spirits at the same time and released the great flood technique as well. More than 10 greater divine powers gathered and caused the torrent to converge, almost forming a sea. Boom, boom, boom. Turbid waves surged into the skies and poured down like thunder, charging toward Su Zimo as though they wanted to devour and drown all living beings. In an instant, Su Zimo was drowned by the torrent. Boundless Frost Seal. Commander Shi hollered and the other execution guards released their greater divine powers, Boundless Frost Seal as well. The many execution guards had a tacit understanding and pushed their strength to their limits. Crack, crack, crack. Under the finger of the execution guard commander, a white frost fog descended rapidly and enveloped the torrent, freezing everything it passed. Ha ha! I thought that this lad would have some incredible means. So, he's so weak that he can't even withstand a single blow from us. Many execution guards had just closed in and realized that the combat was over before they could attack. The torrent on the ground froze on the spot. Su Zimo was frozen in the torrent motionlessly. Even the 4 balls of flames were frozen. On coiling Dragon Mountain Range, the crowd sighed when they saw that. The 4 heaven immortals shook their heads gently with regretful expressions. The difference was still too great. How could he win against 100 people single-handedly? Furthermore, there was a difference of 2 to 3 cultivation realms between them. Your Highness, it's done. Lone Star was delighted and heaved a sigh of relief. Ha 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 ha. Prince Yuanzhua was relieved and reared his head in laughter. The pent-up anger in his chest was finally released. This is the outcome of going against me, Yuanzhua, and the great Qing Immortal Kingdom. Yuanzhua was filled with vigor and shouted, no matter who you are or where you are, even if you leave the territory of the great Qing Immortal Kingdom, you won't be able to escape the punishment you deserve. Within the carriage, the girl said, it's over. A miracle did not appear at the end of the day. The plain-robed woman was still staring at the water barrier, frowning in silence. Princess, what are you looking at? The girl asked. The plain-robed woman shook her head gently. Something's not right. The 4 balls of flames don't seem to have extinguished. Divine powers countered one another. Apart from the innate counters of the dermic Daos, it was also dependent on the strength of the caster. The frost of the torrent could indeed extinguish flames. However, flames could incinerate seas and sear the heavens as well. Chapter 21-27, 2127 Tragic. 2127 Tragic. Crack, crack, crack. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the battlefield, as though something was about to break through the ice and return to the world. Many execution guards shifted their gazes towards Su Zimo, who was frozen in the torrent. The flames haven't extinguished. What secret skill is that? To think that it can defend against the greater divine powers of so many of us? Many execution guards noticed something unusual as well and frowned. Commander Shi said coldly, no matter what secret skill it is, at most, we'll release another round of divine powers and secret skills. How can he defend against all of us alone? Even through attrition, we can exhaust him to death. Buzz, buzz. Cracks appeared on the ice layer with rumbling fog. The boundless ice was about to melt. Many execution guards channeled their essence spirits once more and condensed their divine powers and secret skills, prepared to attack. Right then, beneath the thin layer of ice, the 4 balls of flames around Su Zimo spun and collided rapidly, emitting a blinding light. A shuddering aura spread and flames surged into the skies. The ice on the battlefield melted instantly and turned into a surging torrent once more. The Qachirati Dao fire was condensed. Gulp, gulp. Under the envelopment of the Dao fire, the torrent surged in the blink of an eye and the water surface bubbled with steam. Under the shroud of the fog, Su Zimo's figure was faintly visible and became extremely mysterious. From freezing to boiling, it only took 2 to 3 breaths. Under the surging torrent and the high-temperature steam, many execution guards felt suffocated and drenched in sweat in an extremely uncomfortable manner. Attack! Commander Shi shouted. Su Zimo's expression was calm as a spirit consciousness flame burst forth from his glabella and entered the Qachirati Dao fire. Phew! The ball of flames exploded instantly and spread around the battlefield like a hurricane. The torrent on the battlefield evaporated instantly. The 99 execution guards fell into a sea of flames. The execution guards thought that Su Zimo was completely frozen and gathered in the vicinity. None of them were spared when the Pankati Dao fire spread. Ah, ah, oh. A series of tragic cries sounded from the battlefield. The first ones to fall were the level 8 Earth Essence Realm execution guards. The power released by the Pankati Dao fire had already exceeded the limits of what they could withstand. Even if the execution guards condensed any divine powers or secret skills, it would be difficult for them to defend against the damage of the Pankati Dao fire. Under the incineration of the Pankati Dao fire, the black gold feather armor was burned red. The flesh of many execution guards sizzled and emitted thick green smoke when they were burned. Some of the black gold feather armors even melted into boiling molten metal that stuck to the execution guards and could not be shaken off no matter how they rolled. One after another, figures burning with flames fled in all directions with pained expressions, wanting to extinguish the flames on their bodies. However, the execution guards did not manage to run far before they could not hold on and were burned to ashes, leaving only their execution sabers on the ground. Before long, close to 40 of the 99 execution guards were burned to death by the Pankati Dao fire. Such a tragic scene caused an uproar. Be it the cultivators in the vicinity or the cultivators watching from Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, all of them were shocked. Prince Yuan's eyes widened with wrath. His body swayed slightly and he almost crushed his teeth. This! The 4 heaven immortals could not help but bounce up from their chairs and look at the flames on the battlefield in disbelief. That lethality and destructive power was way too terrifying. Nearly 40 execution guards died in the sea of flames instantly and even more were severely injured. The remaining dozens of execution guards relied on their higher cultivation realms and robust essence chi to release divine powers and secret skills repeatedly. They managed to survive temporarily. However, some of the level 9 Earth Essence Realm execution guards did not have strong physiques and bloodlines. Their flesh was split open by the Dao fire and their organs were charred black. Even if they could survive, their bodies would be completely crippled. Right now, there were only around 40 execution guards with combat strength on the battlefield. The others were either buried in the sea of flames, severely injured or crippled. A series of wails could be heard from the sea of flames. This scene had a huge impact on everyone. The execution guards represented the great Qing Immortal Kingdom and were in charge of punishment and killing. They were formed by the top Earth Immortals and Heaven Immortals. But now, not only did that fire severely injure the execution guards, it even seemed to have burned the face of the great Qing Immortal Kingdom into pieces. In the valley, the cultivators watching could sense the tragic state of the execution guards even more clearly when they heard the tragic cries on the battlefield. Even paragons such as Prince Yunlei and Princess Scarlet Rainbow had pale expressions at the moment. Put in the same situation, they might face difficulties escaping unscathed from such terrifying flames as well. Set up the formation, set up the formation. Commander Shi was covered in dust from the burns and was still roaring loudly. His voice had already turned extremely hoarse after inhaling a large amount of dust. As long as the heaven and earth essence chi is isolated, the flames will naturally extinguish. Another execution guard commander shouted as well. Commander Shi and the others slapped their storage bags and took out sets of array flags, scattering them onto the battlefield. Above Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, Lone Star's expression softened when he saw that and he said hurriedly, "Your Highness, don't worry. The remaining execution guards are all top-tier experts. Although they're all burned, once we set up the Black Light Essence Severing Formation, we can reverse the situation and capture that lad alive." Prince Yuan's expression was dark. His initially clenched fists relaxed slowly as he nodded. Not bad. Although the power of this flame secret skill is great, the toll on this lad is definitely unimaginable. Your Highness is wise, Lone Star said. At that time, be it in melee combat or spirit consciousness fights, the execution guards will have an absolute advantage. On the battlefield. It's the Black Light Essence Severing Formation of the Great Qing Immortal Kingdom. Princess Scarlet Rainbow had a grim expression. When set up, this array formation can isolate heaven and earth essence chi. At that time, one can only use spirit consciousness secret skills or melee combat. Prince Yunlei said, although this flame is powerful, it will be useless. Princess Scarlet Rainbow frowned slightly. Why is that person standing on the spot without any reaction? Why isn't he preventing the execution guards from setting up the formation? The power of that flame secret skill earlier on must have taken a huge toll on him. Prince Yunlei said, I reckon that this person is already at the end of his rope and is extremely weak, unable to fight anymore. Sigh, he can be considered as a rare paragon with just this flame secret skill. It's truly a pity that he's going to be destroyed in the hands of the execution guards. One after another, array flags tore through the air and surrounded Su Zimo. He did not move at all, as though he had indeed lost his combat strength. He did not attack to destroy the formation set up by Commander Shi and the others. He was like a bystander, watching quietly as Commander Shi and the others dug the array flags into the ground and surrounded him. Su Zimo's expression was calm as he watched Commander Shi and the others enter the formation. Gradually, an imperceptible mocking look appeared in his eyes. Chapter 21-28. 21-28 End of the Road? 21-28 End of the Road. Su Zimo possessed the Green Lotus True Body and the Creation Lotus Platform. Naturally, he would not exhaust the power of his essence spirit by releasing a single Pankadi Dao fire. The reason why he did not stop them was because there was no need. The reason why more than 10 execution guards died outside Songyu City was because of the Black Light Essence Severing Formation. For the remaining execution guards, the setup of this array formation was a trap for themselves. However, the execution guards did not realize the danger at all. When everyone saw Su Zimo motionless, they thought that the outcome was set. Above Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, Prince Yuan's was seemed to have thought of something and suddenly frowned. "Your Highness, what's wrong?" When Lone Star saw the strange expression on Prince Yuan's face, he asked hurriedly, "The Black Light Essence Severing Formation has been set up and the flames have been extinguished completely. You don't have to worry, Your Highness." "Lone Star, do you remember the dozens of execution guards who died outside Songyu City a few months ago?" Prince Yuan's was suddenly asked. Lone Star nodded and said, "I remember. Those execution guards seem to have been killed by the two people hunted down by Princess Meng Yao. In the end, they were burned to ashes without anything left behind." "Something's not right." Prince Yuanzhua shook his head slowly and glared at Su Zimo in the valley, saying hatefully, "Burned to ashes. Can't you tell who was the one who created a fire of that level?" Lone Star's heart skipped a beat. "Your Highness, you mean to say that Su Zimo killed those people?" "Even if he didn't kill them, he must have been present." Prince Yuanzhua said coldly, "He was the one who set the corpses of the execution guards on fire." Initially, Prince Yuanzhua had not thought that Su Zimo was the one who did it. After all, more than 2,000 years ago, Su Zimo was only a Grade 1 Earth Immortal. Even if Prince Yuanzhua knew that Su Zimo had already cultivated to become a Grade 6 Earth Immortal, he could not imagine how a Grade 6 Earth Immortal could kill more than 10 execution guards. But now that he had witnessed Su Zimo's methods personally, he finally connected the dots. In the valley, afraid that Su Zimo would escape, the few execution guard commanders even set up 4 black light essence severing formations in the surroundings that were connected tightly, trapping Su Zimo within. The remaining 40-odd execution guards with combat strength walked slowly towards Su Zimo with murderous auras. Although Commander Shi blocked the damage of the Pankadi Dao fire, he was covered in dust and looked wretched. "Su Zimo." Commander Shi's gaze was cold as he said slowly, "You killed so many execution guards of the great Qing Immortal Kingdom. Even if I slice you into pieces, it won't be enough to appease the hatred in my heart. Su Zimo, after I suppress you, I'll deal with you personally and let you have a taste of my methods. I'll let you know what it means to live a life worse than death." Another execution guard said through gritted teeth. The other execution guards were filled with hatred as well. They had never suffered such a huge loss before. Furthermore, it was in front of everyone. Even if they captured Su Zimo alive today, the reputation of the execution guards would be greatly reduced. This battle was a huge humiliation for them. "Oh!" Surveying his surroundings, Su Zimo looked at the execution guards that were approaching and said indifferently, "You guys don't seem to understand the situation and you still want to suppress me? Ha ha!" An execution guard commander burst into laughter. "Su Zimo, I'm sure you've never seen the Black Light Essence Severing Formation before and don't know its power. This formation isolates Heaven and Earth Essence Qi. No matter how many divine powers and secret skills you have, you won't be able to release them. Su Zimo, you're already at the end of the road. There's no need to continue pretending." Many execution guards sneered, thinking that the outcome was decided. "Is that so?" Su Zimo asked instead, and his gaze intensified. In a flash, he lunged forward and attacked. "How dare you!" The 2 execution guards at the front were long prepared. With a furious roar, they withdrew their execution sabers and slashed towards Su Zimo. The blades howled with a chilling intent. With a cold flash, The two execution sabers slashed in front of Su Zimo, a hair's breadth from him. However, Su Zimo did not dodge or avoid. In a flash, he suddenly extended his hands and grabbed the two execution sabers bare-handed. You must have a death wish. The two execution guards channeled their blood chi hurriedly, wanting to crush Su Zimo's palms. However, they realized that Su Zimo's palms were like two iron hoops that bound the execution saber tightly, and they could not move at all. The two execution guards widened their eyes in shock. A body of flesh and blood could defend against a divine weapon like the execution saber. Let go! Right then, Su Zimo hollered and suddenly exerted strength in his palms, snatching the two execution sabers from their palms. Thereafter, Su Zimo tossed them backwards. The two execution sabers transformed into two cold beams of light that tore through the air and arrived instantly, arriving before two execution guards behind him. That move was way too sudden. Nobody expected Su Zimo to snatch the execution sabers with ease and counterattack without any pauses. Ah! The two execution guards at the back reacted extremely quickly as well. Their eyes widened as they exhaled and raised their execution sabers, slashing towards the cold light in front of them. Clang! The execution sabers collided and rubbed against one another, creating blinding sparks. The two execution guards shuddered and their expressions changed. Although Su Zimo seemed like he was throwing them casually, they contained an incomparably terrifying power. Although he was a grade 6 Earth Immortal, his physical strength had increased by 4 times after he released the six-tusked divine elephant. Coupled with the green lotus true body and the thunderbones, none of the execution guards present could take the burst of that power head-on. The two execution guards raised their execution sabers and collided with the incoming sabers. Not only did they fail to knock the sabers down, the saber in their hands was even repelled. They were now wide open. The two execution sabers pierced the faces of the two execution guards and their essence spirits were destroyed, dying on the spot. On the other side, Su Zimo did not pause after throwing out the two execution sabers and charged forward. The two execution guards at the front had their execution sabers snatched away and their bodies were brought over. Su Zimo reached out with both hands and pushed down on the heads of the two execution guards at the front. Crack! The necks of the two execution guards before him snapped. Su Zimo pushed their heads down along their necks and stuffed them into their chests. Their essence spirits were long shattered as they fell to the ground weakly. Charging forward, snatching the sabers, tossing the sabers, attacking. The entire process was fluid as water and clean. Although it sounded slow, in the blink of an eye, 4 execution guards died on the spot. The other execution guards were about to advance when they realized that 4 more people had died on their side. End of the road. Su Zimo smiled faintly. Sorry to disappoint you guys. Commander Sher and the others felt chills run down their spines when they saw Su Zimo smile. Their confidence and arrogance earlier on had vanished completely. Surveying his surroundings, Su Zimo nodded and said, "It's all thanks to everyone for setting up the black light essence severing formation. That saves me some effort. Since it's your goodwill, I'll accept it." The moment he said that, Su Zimo attacked once more and created another bloodstorm. Chapter 21-29, 21-29 Massacre. 2129 Massacre. Relying on the green lotus true body, the thunderbones and the six-tusked divine strength, Su Zimo was able to sweep through his peers in melee combat even without the use of blood chi. Right now, the green lotus true body was equivalent to a grade 10 creation green lotus. Even a connate earth-grade dermic treasure could not hurt him. Furthermore, Su Zimo's melee offensive skills were fused with the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. Coupled with the offensive skills of the dragon race and his many years of experience in killing, his attacks were as violent as a storm and his strength burst forth like a volcano. Su Zimo had practiced killing to its limits in melee combat. Although the execution guards present wielded the execution saber and wore the black gold feather armor, they could not defend against them at all. Su Zimo charged into the crowd like a ferocious tiger descending a mountain or a wolf entering a flock of sheep. Charging left and right, he crushed the remaining execution guards with ease. Su Zimo's hands, elbows, shoulders, crotch, legs, knees and feet were all killing weapons. Her fair and tender hands alone could transform into fists like hammers, fingers like swords and palms like sabers. Every single change could kill. The dozens of execution guards were top Earth Immortal experts who were fully armed, but they could not gain any advantage against Su Zimo. The cultivators watching from the valley winced in shock with widened eyes. That person looks refined and scholarly. However, he doesn't show any mercy when he fights. He seems to have countless traces of ferocious beasts on his body. Princess Scarlet Rainbow was secretly speechless and murmured. Prince Yunlei had a grim expression as well. This person's melee offensive skills are way too ferocious and he's filled with weapons from head to toe. In fact, I suspect that a single hair of this person can be used to kill. They were the two most famous paragons with the strongest combat strength in this immortal Sect selection. However, at that moment, both of them were wary after witnessing Su Zimo's methods. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, the two of them would not have believed that a grade 6 Earth Immortal could release such terrifying combat strength. On the battlefield. In less than 10 breaths, 18 of the 40 execution guards died. Activate your Essence Spirit secret skills and we'll join forces to kill him. At this critical juncture, Commander Shi finally made a decision. He no longer held back or hoped to capture Su Zimo alive. This decision was against Prince Yuan's orders and he would definitely be severely punished. However, if they held back, all of them would die here. This battle no longer had anything to do with orders, pride or dignity. It was only about life and death. Only the victor would be able to leave alive. The moment Commander Shi said that, a powerful spirit consciousness fluctuation burst forth from the battlefield. The remaining 22 execution guards glared at Su Zimo and their glabella shone. Almost at the same time, they released their Essence Spirit secret skills without holding back. Su Zimo had a fearless expression. After the 6-tusk divine strength, the power of his Essence Spirit was not weaker than a grade 9 Earth Immortal. A dragon scale appeared in midair with a shuddering aura. Although many spirit consciousness secret skills collided with the dragon scale in silence, the entire world seemed to have stopped. Only the water barrier above the valley swayed slightly with a ripple. The millions of cultivators watching from Coiling Dragon Mountain Range felt their hearts skip a beat as they glared at the battlefield nervously. Essence spirit fights were the most dangerous and one could die if they were careless. The 4 Heaven Immortals were tense. Previously, they knew that Su Zimo's Essence Spirit realm was very high. However, he was most likely doomed if he wanted to fight against the Essence Spirit secret skills of the 22 execution guards. When the dragon scale appeared, the plain-robed woman in a carriage in the crowd suddenly blurted, "Reverse scale." What? The girl in the carriage was almost entirely focused on the battlefield and did not hear it clearly, asking instinctively. The plain-robed woman murmured softly, "Someone's going to die." At the same time, in the valley, cracks appeared on the dragon scale that floated in midair before shattering. Of the 22 Essence Spirit secret skills of the execution guards, only 12 were shattered. The remaining 10 charged toward Su Zimo. It was over. A sigh sounded from Coiling Dragon Mountain Range when they saw that. To think that this person would not be able to escape the final attack of the execution guards. As a grade 6 Earth Immortal, he fought till this point with the execution guards and even killed so many of them. Even if he dies, it's with pride. Even if he manages to survive after killing so many execution guards, he won't have a good life in the future either. It's a good outcome for him to die happily with his Essence Spirit destroyed. Discussions were already starting in the crowd. However, in midair, the 4 Heaven Immortals, Prince Yuanzhua, Lone Star and the others with sharp eyes did not say anything. They were still looking at the battlefield and the shock in their eyes intensified. Thud, thud. On the battlefield, 12 execution guards had dim gazes and listless faces. They fell stiffly to the ground and their life force drained rapidly. They were already dead. The Essence Spirit secret skills of the 12 execution guards collided with the reverse scale and the Essence Spirits in their consciousnesses could not escape its killing power. Anyone who touched the reverse scale of a dragon would die. Many cultivators watching were dumbfounded and could not react to what happened. Su Zimo conjured hand seals and released another Essence Spirit secret skill. A golden Sanskrit word talisman floated out slowly from his glabella and charged towards the remaining 10 Essence Spirit secret skills. The Gautama Dermic Seal. Another 5 of the 10 Essence Spirit secret skills shattered. Immediately after, Su Zimo touched his glabella gently with his finger and lightning flashed. A whip surrounded by electric arcs was pulled out from his consciousness and whipped the remaining 5 Essence Spirit secret skills. Spirit Vanquishing Whip. The Essence Spirit secret skills of both parties collided and dissipated. The battlefield was filled with endless chaotic spirit consciousnesses. The remaining 10 execution guards grunted and blood drained from their faces. Although the Gautamadermic Seal and Spirit Vanquishing Whip were strong, they did not have the terrifying killing power of the reverse scale. The essence spirits of Commander Shi and the others suffered different impacts and were not at the point of death. Of course, in the fight between essence spirits, Su Zimo's consciousness was also affected by the impact of the strong spirit consciousnesses. However, the Green Lotus Essence Spirit sat on the Creation Lotus platform with 90 green lotus seeds surrounding it, blocking most of the impact from the spirit consciousnesses. Although the Green Lotus Essence Spirit had expended a lot of energy and did not have much power left, it was not injured. Another 12 of the remaining 22 execution guards were dead. The remaining 10 execution guards were also injured. This time round, they were not only injured from the Pankati Dao fire, their essence spirits were injured as well. Su Zimo had the absolute advantage in this essence spirit fight. The plain-robed woman was not surprised by this. Back then, even the Ice Soul silver armor that she gave Yun Ting to protect his essence spirit was crippled. It was clear how lethal this person's essence spirit was. Chapter 2130. 2130 Mouthful of Blood. 2130 Mouthful of Blood. The remaining 10 execution guards were scared out of their wits. Almost at the same time, the remaining 10 execution guards could not care less about their dignity or orders and turned to flee out of the Black Light Essence Severing Formation. Commander Shi and the others were completely scared. There were more than 100 execution guards on this trip, and there were only 10 left. The rest were either dead or injured in an extremely tragic manner. Who else would dare to attack Su Zimo? Staying alive was the only thought on the minds of Commander Shi and the others. The 10 of them turned and fled. Su Zimo's movement technique was even faster. Stomping his feet on the ground, the earth shook and he tore through the air like an arrow buzzing. Bang! An execution guard was caught by Su Zimo and smashed into pieces, dying on the spot. Su Zimo did not stop in his tracks and changed directions, chasing after another execution guard. Before long, Su Zimo caught up to the second execution guard and pierced the back of his head with a single finger. His essence spirit was destroyed and he died. The remaining execution guards were scared out of their wits and could not unleash even half of their peak combat strength, let alone with their essence spirits injured. Su Zimo chased like he was chopping vegetables and no one could defend against him for a moment. Although Commander Shi and the others fled in different directions, without essence chi in the Black Light Essence Severing Formation, they could only use the power of their bodies to sprint. How could they compare to Su Zimo's speed? By the time Commander Shi escaped from the Black Light Essence Severing Formation, he realized that 7 of the 10 people had been killed by Su Zimo. Including Commander Shi, there were only 3 people who managed to escape. The 3 of them exchanged glances with horrified expressions and felt bitter when they saw one another's tragic state. The high spirits and steely killing intent they had when they first entered the valley had long vanished. Right now, the 3 of them were flustered like stray dogs. Thankfully, after leaving the range of the Black Light Essence Severing Formation, the 3 of them could activate their essence spirits and use Heaven and Earth Essence Chi to release movement techniques and divine powers to escape from this place. Swoosh! A golden light tore through the air and arrived instantly. Right in front of Commander Shi, one of the 3 execution guards was pierced by the golden light and his body exploded, dying instantly. The golden light that appeared was Su Zimo, who had released his extreme speed divine power with the wings of a rock behind him. It's really him! Princess Scarlet Rainbow exclaimed. When she saw that Su Zimo was only a grade 6 Earth Immortal, Princess Scarlet Rainbow had her doubts. However, on second thought, the sickly young man she encountered merely had an extremely fast movement technique. How could he have such terrifying methods? But now, she was certain when she saw Su Zimo use the Golden Wing secret skill. At the same time, Princess Scarlet Rainbow felt a sense of trepidation. If this person had not chosen to avoid the battle back then, Even she would have died here. When Commander Shi and the other execution guards saw that, they turned to flee in two completely different directions without hesitation. Su Zimo chased after one of them. At the same time, he slapped his storage bag and his robes fluttered, throwing out dozens of black shadows that surrounded Commander Shi. The dozens of black shadows landed on the ground and formed a familiar array formation. Commander Shi barged into the formation and suddenly felt his essence chi depleted. He fell and could not help but exclaim, "Black light essence severing formation." Su Zimo also had the array flags of the black light essence severing formation. On the way from Zhongyu City to Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, he had long refined the array flags for his own use. Ah! A tragic cry sounded not far away. After killing another person, Su Zimo turned towards Commander Shi. Naturally, the black light essence severing formation could not trap Commander Shi. However, that momentary delay was enough for Su Zimo to double back. Commander Shi had just charged out of the black light essence severing formation when he bumped into Su Zimo, who was filled with killing intent. "Su Zimo, why you killed so many execution guards? You!" Commander Shi's heart skipped a beat and his voice trembled slightly. Bang! Unfortunately, Su Zimo was not interested in listening to him. Without a word, he strode forward and slapped the top of Commander Shi's head, shattering his essence spirit. At this point of the battle, the 112 execution guards were completely annihilated. There were also some execution guards who were severely injured and lost their combat strength but did not die. They were scared out of their wits and trembled on the spot. They were already fish on a chopping board and were at his mercy. Su Zimo walked towards the execution guards expressionlessly. Their fates were already decided. Since he had already attacked, Su Zimo would not show mercy or leave any future troubles. Above Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, the four Heaven Immortals let out a long breath. Unknowingly, the four of them had stood up from their seats. Now that the dust had settled, their expressions relaxed and their hearts calmed down before they sat back down slowly. Although the four Heaven Immortals looked calm, they were emotional when they witnessed this battle personally. He was way too strong. Initially, the four Heaven Immortals thought that Su Zimo was merely the most outstanding paragon in the Immortal Sect selection and a promising talent. It was only at that moment that the four Heaven Immortals realized that Su Zimo might be the most terrifying monster incarnate in the past 10,000 or even 100,000 years. A monster incarnate like that was an existence that could support an entire sect single-handedly. They had to do their best to recruit this person into their sects. As for the feud between this person and Prince Yuanzhua, the four Heaven Immortals did not take it to heart. At the thought of Prince Yuanzhua, the four Heaven Immortals glanced sideways. Not far away, Prince Yuanzhua stood in midair and his body trembled slightly. He glared at the figure in the valley with eyes that seemed like they could spew fire. If Lone Star had not held him back, he might have even charged down recklessly. At that moment, Su Zimo was cleaning up the battlefield. All the severely injured execution guards were killed by him. At this point, there was no room for negotiation. It was either him or them who would be walking out alive. "Fellow Taoists, you saw it too." Prince Yuanzhua pointed at Su Zimo in the valley and grit his teeth, saying coldly, "This lad is so arrogant and conceited, looking down on me as though I'm nothing. Fellow Taoists, please remove the formation outside the valley and let me charge in to tear this lad into pieces." "Foo-foo." Heaven Immortal Green Peak chuckled. "Prince Yuanzhua, please calm down. This arrangement was your decision back then and has nothing to do with us. Prince Yuanzhua, the Immortal Sect selection is not over yet. We can't dispel the formation." Yang Ruoxu said, "Furthermore, Heaven Immortals are not allowed to interfere directly in the Immortal Sect selection." "But my men are all dead." Prince Yuanzhua was already a little hysterical as he roared at the four Heaven Immortals. More than 100 execution guards of the Great Qing Immortal Kingdom died inside. "You asked for it," Heaven Abyss said slowly. "You." Prince Yuanzhua was enraged and glared at Heaven Abyss, almost attacking. Thankfully, Lone Star stopped him. However, the forceful suppression of his rage caused him to be extremely worked up. Finally, he could not hold on any longer and spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 2131. 2131A Fat Paunch. 2131A Fat Pawn. More than 100 execution guards were annihilated and coiling Dragon Mountain Range was already noisy. Many cultivators discussed fervently with flushed faces. This battle had an extremely strong impact on many cultivators. Prior to this, who would have believed that a Grade 6 Earth Immortal would dare to attack and kill execution guards? Who would believe that a Grade 6 Earth Immortal could bury more than 100 execution guards? This battle was even more intense and shocking than the Immortal Sect selection that had lasted for almost a year. This was a direct challenge to the great Qing Immortal Kingdom. This was a head-on declaration of war against Prince Yuan Zhua. Some people gloated and concluded that Su Zimo was definitely doomed. Some people were disdainful. Su Zimo's actions were like striking a stone with an egg. If he wanted to fight against the great Qing Immortal Kingdom, it was akin to an ant trying to shake a tree. Some people felt pity that such a paragon was about to die before he could truly grow. Within the carriage, the girl gradually composed herself. Su Zimo is indeed very powerful and can even defeat Prince Yun Lei. However, he's still not a match for Prince Yun Ting. Before Prince Yun Ting entered seclusion this time round, he was already a Grade 9 Earth Immortal. If he can come out of seclusion this time round, there's a high chance he can break through to the Heaven Immortal realm. That's different. The plain-robed woman shook her head. Apart from his talent, the reason why Yun Ting's cultivation speed is so shocking is because he's focused on cultivating the Tao of the sword and won't be distracted. However, Su Zimo's knowledge is extremely varied. From his attack earlier on, we can tell that he has dabbled in the methods and secret skills of immortals, Buddhas, fiends and even some demons. In fact, he has a deep understanding of them. That's too difficult. You have to understand that a person's energy is limited. It's difficult to cultivate many different dermic Taoists to their peak, and it will take 10 or 100 times more time to raise one's cultivation realm. It's understandable for this person to cultivate the dermic Taoists of the immortal, Buddhist and fiends. However, it's truly impressive that he's able to cultivate the secret skills of the demon race to such an extent. Even now, I'm curious as to what physique he has. The plain-robed woman praised Su Zimo immensely through her words. However, I feel that Su Zimo definitely can't compare to Prince Yun Ting given the methods he displayed. The girl said, Prince Yun Ting has obtained 2 more inheritances over the years and is much stronger than before. How do you know that he has no other methods? The plain-robed woman asked with a fake smile. Ah! The girl was stunned for a moment. This person still has more trump cards? That's impossible, right? The plain-robed woman smiled faintly. Everything else aside, have you seen him use any dermic treasures? This. The girl hesitated for a moment and said sheepishly, perhaps he doesn't have any dermic treasures. The plain-robed woman looked at the figure in the valley and remained silent for a moment before saying slowly, from what I know, he has an incredible dermic treasure with an extremely powerful background. This person is unfathomable. Even I can't see through him. He might be Yun Ting's greatest opponent in the future. In the valley, right in front of many cultivators, Su Zimo cleaned up the battlefield and put away the storage bags of the execution guards. There might not be any supreme treasures in the storage bags of the execution guards. However, there were many cultivation resources like essence spirit stones and major essence condensation pills. Su Zimo had just experienced a huge battle and seemed to be exhausted. However, no one dared to fight him for any items. Even an existence like Prince Yun Lei did not want to have a conflict with Su Zimo. After tidying up the battlefield, Su Zimo turned to leave and many cultivators avoided him hurriedly. Only Princess Scarlet Rainbow rode on her flying sword and arrived before Su Zimo, blocking his path forward. Hey! Princess Scarlet Rainbow raised her head slightly. Since you're so powerful, I guess it'll be rough on you if you have to be my guard. How about this? I'll invite you as a guest who will stay by my side. There will be no hierarchy between us. Furthermore, I can share many of my cultivation resources with you. How about that? Su Zimo raised his head and glanced at Princess Scarlet Rainbow indifferently, asking, I killed so many execution guards and destroyed one of Yuan's clones. Right now, he's waiting outside to kill me. Can you protect me? Princess Scarlet Rainbow was momentarily speechless. Although she was a princess of the Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom, she was only an Earth Immortal after all. Her status among the princes and princesses of the Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom was not too high. It was not to the extent where she could go against Prince Yuanzhua because of an outsider. Su Zimo had long expected this outcome and was not surprised. He circled around Princess Scarlet Rainbow and continued forward. Princess Scarlet Rainbow pouted her red lips and looked at Su Zimo's back view huffily, feeling aggrieved. It was not because she was afraid of Prince Yuanzhua or because she did not want to protect Su Zimo. However, right now, she truly did not command enough power in the Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom to fight against a grade 9 Heaven Immortal expert like Yuanzhua. The reason why she took part in the Immortal Sect selection this time round was also because she wanted to make use of the 4 Immortal Sects to achieve a meteoric rise in status. As Su Zimo advanced, he thought about what might happen after the Immortal Sect selection ended. There were 5 more days before the selection ended. At that time, he would have to face the enraged Prince Yuanzhua. Even Su Zimo could not be sure what would happen then. His choice was also a gamble that the 4 immortal sects were not afraid of offending the great Qing Immortal Kingdom. As long as an immortal sect was willing to take him in, he could resolve the crisis 5 days later. Of course, the most important thing for him right now was to gather enough coiling dragon badges. He had more than 1,200 coiling dragon badges with him. If he wanted to secure a spot in the top 100, he would have to gather 1,800. 4 hours later. On a mountain peak, Lai Feng led more than 100 cultivators to rest and recuperate. Boss Lai Feng, I heard that the execution guards went over that side to kill someone called Su Zimo. Many cultivators went over to watch the battle. Someone said. Lai Feng acknowledged and did not reply. When another person heard that, he came over and asked, Boss, why don't we take a look over there and watch the show? Watch the show? Lai Feng sneered. I reckon that Prince Yunlei, Princess Scarlet Rainbow and all the ruthless people in the valley must have gone over for such a huge commotion. Aren't you afraid of losing our lives if we go and watch the show now? You are right, boss. Immediately, a cultivator flattered with a smile. Right then, the cultivator pointed not far away and said, Boss, look. A grade 6 Earth Immortal is coming over. He's alone. That sickly invalid. Suddenly, Lai Feng was invigorated as he bolted upright and looked over. He had been brooding with pent-up anger when he thought about how he lost that sickly invalid earlier on. It's not the same person. However, this person must be a juicy piece of meat to be able to last until now. Shall we attack? The person licked his lips with a searing gaze. Is there a need to ask? Lai Feng waved it off. I'll leave this person to you guys. You guys can split the coiling dragon badges you snatch among yourselves. I've got enough of them. Chapter 2132. 2132 You're not worthy of challenging me. 2132 You're not worthy of challenging me. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Although the battle between Su Zimo and the execution guards had ended more than 4 hours ago, the enthusiasm of the cultivators did not diminish at all. If nothing went wrong, news of the change in the Immortal Sect selection this time round would definitely spread through Divine Firmament mainland. Look what's going on over there. He encountered Lai Feng and the others again. These people truly have a death wish. To think that they would take the initiative to surround him. When Su Zimo first descended in the valley, he was surrounded by Lai Feng and the others. At that time, none of the cultivators thought that he would be able to come out alive. But now that more than 20 days had passed, against this scene that seemed like it was yesterday, everyone's opinions were worlds apart. Many cultivators looked at Lai Feng and the others with pity in their eyes. Lai Feng's group had managed to survive till this day. If nothing went wrong, apart from Lai Feng, one other person could have entered the top 100. But now that they targeted Su Zimo, the outcome was imaginable. In the valley, dozens of cultivators rushed forward and surrounded Su Zimo tightly. All of them had burning gazes and wanted nothing more than to skin him alive. Fellow Taoist, you look unfamiliar. A cultivator with a fat head asked with a smile. Is that so? Surveying his surroundings, Su Zimo said with a fake smile. Everyone looks familiar. I should have seen you before. Ha 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 ha. The dozens of cultivators in the surroundings burst into laughter. A cultivator said smugly, "Guys, do you see that? We're quite famous in this valley after joining forces. This person knows us as well." The first fat cultivator raised his head slightly and asked, "Fellow Taoist, how many coiling dragon badges have you obtained in the past year?" "More than 1,200. Su Zimo did not hide anything and said frankly. The eyes of the surrounding cultivators lit up. If some of them could obtain the 1,200-odd coiling dragon badges, they might even have a chance of breaking through to 1,800. Even Lai Feng, who was resting with his eyes closed not far away, was slightly surprised. He glanced over with a slit in his eyes. "Man, I was right. He's indeed a juicy piece of meat." The fat cultivator was grinning from ear to ear in a smug manner. "Fu fu fu." Su Zimo laughed as well. "Idiot, why are you laughing with us?" Suddenly, a menacing expression appeared on the fat cultivator's face as he strode forward and raised his hand to slap Su Zimo's face. His fat and thick palm created an evil gust of wind. The fat cultivator did not hold back at all. He wanted to kill Su Zimo right here without even giving the latter a chance to activate his coiling dragon badges. The smile on Su Zimo's face did not diminish as he struck as well, slapping the fat cultivator's face. That palm strike was even faster and more ferocious. Even the fat cultivator opposite him could not react, let alone the surrounding cultivators. His palm was only halfway through when Su Zimo's slap landed on his fat face. Piak! It was clear that the fat cultivator's face had broken bones and half of his face was caved in as flesh splattered everywhere. That slap shattered the fat cultivator's essence spirit. The fat corpse smashed into the crowd with such a terrifying power that the bones of two other cultivators were shattered. Since this person did not hold back, there was no way Su Zimo would show mercy either. After killing that person, Su Zimo took advantage of the stunned expressions of the surrounding cultivators to attack once more. He lunged into the crowd and started a massacre. In melee combat, even the execution guards with the black gold feather armor were not Su Zimo's match. The difference between him and this group of cultivators was even greater. Although the cultivators were not weak in combat, they could only be considered as a motley crew compared to the iron-blooded, disciplined and coordinated execution guards. Su Zimo charged forward and crushed everything in his path. Anyone who fought him head-on would either die or be injured. The battlefield was in chaos as tragic cries sounded repeatedly and a blood mist spread. The initial smugness on the faces of the dozens of cultivators vanished and was replaced by endless fear. What sort of an existence had they provoked? Buzz! Buzz! Some severely injured cultivators did not dare to linger on the battlefield and activated their coiling dragon badges to teleport away. How dare you! When Lai Feng saw that the group had suffered immense losses, he could not help but soar into the air in rage. He led the remaining dozens of cultivators and swarmed forward, releasing divine powers, secret skills, immortal arts and dermic treasures that weaved into a huge net that enveloped Su Zimo. A glint flashed through Su Zimo's eyes as he conjured hand seals repeatedly. Suddenly, a resplendent starry sky appeared above his head. Most of the starry skies were dim. However, there were also millions of bright stars that were descending and gushing into Su Zimo's body continuously. Every single one of Su Zimo's orifices shone with starlight and his aura surged. The mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram had descended. Bang! 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 Su Zimo's combat strength increased exponentially with the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram above his head. He could fight against the many divine powers and dermic treasures that descended barehanded without being disadvantaged. Once Su Zimo closed in, those cultivators would not be able to defend at all. Lai Feng released 2 or 3 divine powers and secret skills in succession, but could not injure Su Zimo at all. Instead, the distance between the two of them decreased. A wary look flashed through Lai Feng's eyes and he wanted to retreat. He had enough coiling dragon badges in his storage bag, and there was no need for him to fight to the death with this unknown ruthless person. As for the cultivators gathered around him, he did not care about them at all. The Immortal Sect selection was about to end, and there was no need for him to implicate himself for the sake of these cultivators. At that thought, Lai Feng made up his mind and declared, "Fellow Taoist, I'm impressed by your extraordinary methods. However, I don't wish to fight you to the death right now. Let's part ways today. If there's a chance, we'll definitely fight in the future. Su Zimo smiled indifferently. Haven't you been searching for me for the past few days? Why are you leaving again after bumping into me today? Why you are? Lai Feng's expression changed when he heard that. The only person he had been searching for the past few days was that sickly young man. Could that person be the sickly invalid? Su Zimo's gaze intensified as he suddenly released ethereal wings, zephyr thunder wings, boundless golden light, heavenly feet and other divine powers and secret skills. His speed increased exponentially. A phantom passed through the gaps between many sabers and swords and charged towards Lai Feng. It's indeed you. Lai Feng was shocked and exclaimed. He was extremely familiar with such a movement technique and burst speed. You're not worthy of challenging me. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo arrived before Lai Feng. With a loud shout, he flipped his palm and grabbed the latter. A sword chi storm condensed in his palm. The moment it descended, it exploded. Countless white sword chi splattered everywhere, piercing into the crowd and causing wails. Every single sword chi was the heaven-slaying sword chi. That killing power swept through the battlefield and was invincible. Lai Feng, who was right in front of him, was the first to be struck. Chapter 2133. 2133 Heaven Immortal Intervention. 2133 Heaven Immortal Intervention. Lai Feng roared and channeled his essence spirit wildly to condense a defensive divine power. However, the moment his greater divine power was released, it was penetrated by many heaven-slaying sword chi. Poof, poof, poof. Although Lai Feng managed to survive the calamity and avoid fatal damage, his body was still riddled with holes by the heaven-slaying sword chi and blood gushed out in an extremely tragic manner. Lai Feng was indignant. If he had not met Su Zimo, given the number of coiling dragon badges in his storage bag, he would definitely be able to enter the top 100 and join the 4 immortal sections. However, he knew very well that if he continued to linger here, he might be killed by Su Zimo on the spot. He was still rational and could tell which was more important. Lai Feng could only activate his coiling dragon badge as a glow surged around him. Su Zimo sneered, "You can't even withstand a single move from me and you want to fight me." When Lai Feng heard that, his body swayed slightly and he nearly fainted. He was also a grade 9 Earth Immortal and a paragon of the Immortal Sect selection. He had never suffered such a blow. However, he did not refute and did not even have any thoughts of resisting. The person before him was only a grade 6 Earth Immortal. Lai Feng knew that he would never be able to catch up to this person in his lifetime. With Lai Feng's departure, the remaining cultivators could not hold on at all and were defeated by Su Zimo. One after another, they activated their coiling dragon badges and left the valley. Therefore, a spectacular scene appeared outside the valley. In an extremely short period of time, cultivators fell onto coiling dragon mountain range one after another. In the valley, a large number of coiling dragon badges floated on the battlefield. After those cultivators left, the coiling dragon badges would automatically stay in the valley. After the battle ended, there were close to 4,000 coiling dragon badges left. Su Zimo waved his sleeves and kept all the coiling dragon badges. Including the coiling dragon badges he had obtained previously, he had already collected more than 5,000. After that battle, Su Zimo became the person with the most number of coiling dragon badges. In midair, Yang Ruoxu focused his gaze and pondered for a long time before saying slowly, "If I'm not wrong, the sword chi released by Su Zimo earlier on." He wanted to speak but hesitated. Heaven-slaying. Heaven Abyss spat out 2 words. It's the heaven-slaying sword art. No wonder. Heaven Immortal White Sea and Heaven Immortal Green Peak were shocked and revealed enlightened expressions. Even in the upper world, the 3 great sword arts were extremely famous. The reason why Yun Ting could sweep through every one of the same cultivation realm was because of the human-slaying sword art that he cultivated. Of course, among the 3 great sword arts, human-slaying reigned supreme. Hee. Heaven Immortal White Sea seemed to have thought of something and suddenly smiled. Interesting. There's a chance that the 3 lost sword arts can be gathered in this generation. There's probably going to be a fierce battle between Su Zimo and Yun Ting. There's still quite a gap between the 2 of them. Heaven Immortal Green Peak shook his head. Although this lad has many trump cards, I'm afraid he can't defend against Yun Ting's sharpness. Furthermore, the two of them are still a few cultivation realms apart. Given Yun Ting's endowment and talent, he'll definitely become an immortal king in the future if nothing goes wrong. In a few years, the few of us will probably be beneath him. Yang Ruoxu said, even if there's a gap between the two of them, Yun Ting is still the only monster incarnate superior to Su Zimo all these years. The four Heaven Immortals chatted openly without reservations. At the side, Prince Yuan's expression was already extremely terrible. It was clear that the four Heaven Immortals were intending to protect Su Zimo. However, Prince Yuan's did not give up. As long as Su Zimo had not joined the four immortal sects, he could not be considered as someone from them. The immortal sect selection continued. The remaining few days were uneventful and the top 100 cultivators were basically confirmed without any changes. The top 3 were Su Zimo, Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Prince Yun Lei. A few days later, the immortal sect selection ended. The water barrier in the valley faded slowly. After a year, the barrier between the valley and Coiling Dragon Mountain Range had finally dissipated. Everyone, come on up. Heaven Immortal Green Peak declared. The top 100 cultivators in the valley rose slowly into the air and advanced towards the formation of the four immortal sections. Su Zimo. When Prince Yuanzhua saw Su Zimo in the crowd, his eyes seemed to spew out two flames. When Prince Yuanzhua recalled how the 100-odd execution guards he brought with him were killed in the valley as well as Su Zimo's provocative gesture, the rationality he had just regained was drowned by hatred and anger once more. Prince Yuanzhua could no longer hold it in. With a deep growl, he released a supreme divine power. Firmament Slash. Prince Yuanzhua used his palm like a saber and slashed in Su Zimo's direction. One could only comprehend Firmament Slash after comprehending saber techniques to their limits. A blinding white light tore through the horizon, leaving a deep scar in the firmaments as though a heavenly saber had slashed across. It could even slice the firmaments into two. The supreme divine power, Firmament Slash, was the most ferocious and lethal. The moment Prince Yuanzhua attacked, he did not give Su Zimo any chance of survival. Initially, he thought of capturing Su Zimo alive. However, the current conditions clearly did not allow it. He might as well kill Su Zimo with a single slash to vent the hatred in his heart. At the same time, Lone Star at the side suddenly attacked. He reached out in Su Zimo's direction. His palm looked ordinary. However, a gigantic hand that shone with a dark golden light appeared in midair and enveloped Su Zimo, as though it could pluck the stars and take away the moon. The supreme divine power, star-plucking hand. The fact that it could even pluck the stars in the firmaments was proof of how terrifying that supreme divine power was. That star-plucking hand was enough to destroy the world. The reason why the two Grade 9 Heaven Immortals attacked at the same time and released supreme divine powers was because they wanted to kill Su Zimo completely. Humph! Heaven Abyss harumphed coldly and suddenly slashed forward. A gigantic abyss chasm laid across the world with a sinister wind that was dark and deep. The cold light conjured by Firmament Slash descended and sank into the abyss before it could injure Su Zimo at all. Boom! 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 Immediately after, the abyss dissipated. The power of Firmament Slash sank as well. Star-plucking hand was not blocked and tore through the air, covering the skies. Yang Ruoxu raised his hand gently and his robes fluttered, as though there was a universe within that could accommodate all living beings. Supreme Divine Power. Sleeve Universe. That supreme divine power was related to space and seemed to have no killing power and limited uses. However, when released by Yang Ruoxu, it revealed endless profundities and could even accommodate Star-plucking hand. It seemed like it could encompass everything. Star-plucking hand descended and was absorbed by Sleeve Universe before it even landed on Su Zimo. In the blink of an eye, the four Heaven Immortal experts had already exchanged blows once, causing the world to change. The surrounding clouds rumbled and essence chi surged. The initially noisy Coiling Dragon Mountain Range turned silent in the blink of an eye. The Heaven Immortal experts were fighting. One side represented the four immortal sects while the other side represented a prince of the great Qing immortal kingdom. Be it in terms of status or backing, both parties were shockingly strong. Chapter 2134. 2134 Appearance of a Perfected Immortals. 2134 Appearance of a Perfected Immortal. When he saw that, Zimo felt slightly relieved. If not for the heaven immortal experts of the four immortal sects, it would be difficult for him to escape this calamity even if he used all his trump cards. What are you guys doing? Prince Yuanzhua glared at Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu and questioned sternly. What are you doing? Yang Ruoxu asked indifferently. Although Heaven Immortal Green Peak at the side did not attack, he sneered at that moment. Prince Yuanzhua, although your status is noble, don't forget where we are. If you want to do whatever you want, return to your great Qing immortal kingdom. Heaven Abyss spoke slowly with an unfriendly tone as well. Prince Yuanzhua grit his teeth. This lad killed so many execution guards of the great Qing immortal kingdom. No matter where he goes, both me and the great Qing immortal kingdom will not let him off. Lone Star said in a deep voice, fellow Taoists, you witnessed everything in the valley personally. Are you still going to protect him? Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan and smiled gently. Your Highness, please calm down. In my opinion, this person is truly not to blame for this matter. After all, these execution guards were the ones who took the initiative to enter the valley to hunt down Zimo. They can blame nobody but themselves for their deaths. Anyone who kills is bound to be killed. Heaven Immortal White Sea was from Flying Immortal Sect and was in the same immortal sect as Princess Meng Yao. At that moment, even Heaven Immortal White Sea stood out to speak up for Zimo. The situation was extremely unfavorable. Prince Yuanzhua's face was ashen as he laughed out of anger. In that case, it's my fault. I didn't say that. Heaven Immortal White Sea shook his head gently with a smile on his face still. Heaven Immortal Green Peak waved his hand and ignored Prince Yuanzhua. Let's begin selecting people. The final 100 people for the Immortal Sect selection had already been selected. Next, the four Immortal Sects would select their candidates according to the number of coiling dragon badges. If two or more Immortal Sects took a liking to someone at the same time, the person would make the choice themselves. The sect they joined would depend on their choice. The person with the most coiling dragon badges, Zimo, come to the front. Heaven Immortal Green Peak said in a deep voice. Zimo walked out of the crowd and came before everyone. Introduce yourself briefly. Your background, family history as well as martial arts lineage. Heaven Immortal Green Peak said. I'm Zimo from the lower worlds. Zimo did not hide anything and said frankly. When he said that, a commotion broke out throughout Coiling Dragon Mountain Range and many cultivators were already whispering. What a pathetic background. To think that he's a lowlife. When I saw how capable he was, I thought that he was from some prestigious family and was hunted down and suppressed because he offended the great Qing immortal kingdom. So what if he's from the lower worlds? His methods are unyielding and he's number one in the Immortal Sect selection this time round. Fufu, so what if he's number one? So what if he joined the four Immortal Sects? Back then, Feng Cantion was even a disciple of an immortal emperor. In the end, didn't he still have to flee for his life everywhere? Zimo could clearly notice that the millions of cultivators below were not the only ones. Many cultivators of the four Immortal Sects revealed looks of contempt and mockery as well. The four Heaven Immortals had calm expressions and did not reveal such emotions. Not only that, Yang Ruoxu looked at Zimo with a hint of admiration and encouragement. You guys heard it too. Prince Yuanzhua said in a deep voice, Zimo is just an inferior and worthless lowlife. Fellow Taoists, why don't you give me some face? Heroes can come from anywhere. Yang Ruoxu turned to look at Prince Yuanzhua. I, Yang Ruoxu, am also from the lower worlds. In your eyes, am I also inferior and worthless? Zimo was slightly surprised. It was no wonder why Yang Ruoxu gave him that look earlier on. The crowd below was in an uproar. Most cultivators did not know Yang Ruoxu's background at all. Prince Yuanzhua was stunned as well. There was no way he knew that Yang Ruoxu was from the lower worlds. Although his words earlier on were targeted at Zimo, he insulted Yang Ruoxu as well. Yang Ruoxu ignored Prince Yuanzhua and said in a deep voice, Heaven and Earth Academy intends to accept Zimo. The three of you can make your choice. Mountain Sea Immortal Sect wants him. Heaven Abyss did not say much, but his tone was resolute and did not hesitate. Heaven Immortal Green Peak followed closely behind. Imperial Wind Temple wants him. Heaven Immortal White Sea hesitated for a moment before saying with a smile, Flying Immortal Sect is interested as well. The 4 immortal sects wanted him at the same time. If it was just ordinary cultivators, the 4 Heaven Immortals might not have had such a direct conflict with Prince Yuanzhua. However, Su Zimo's performance was way too striking. This was a 1-in-a-million monster incarnate. Furthermore, Su Zimo inherited many divine powers and secret skills such as the Mystic Spirit Big Dipper diagram and the Heaven-Slaying Sword Art. His future accomplishments were immeasurable. Since the 4 immortal sects are interested in you, it's up to you. Yang Ruoxu nodded to Su Zimo. Hold on. Prince Yuanzhua interrupted hurriedly. If Su Zimo were to officially join the 4 immortal sects, there would be even less reason for him to attack. Fellow Taoist Yuanzhua, is there anything else you want to say? Heaven Immortal Green Peak frowned slightly and asked impatiently. Prince Yuanzhua took a deep breath and composed himself. He bowed slightly to the 4 Heaven Immortals and was sufficiently polite. As a prince of the great Qing Immortal Kingdom, he had never bowed to a cultivator of the same cultivation realm. Fellow Taoists, please hand this person over to me. I, Yuanzhua, can swear that if you have any requests in the future, I'll definitely do my best and not let you down. Prince Yuanzhua said in a deep voice, as long as the 4 of you agree not to take him in as a disciple, I'll definitely reward you immensely. If you need anything, feel free to let me know. Prince Yuanzhua did not hide his words and said them in front of everyone. He was extremely sincere. The promise of a prince was not to be ignored, even if he was one who was relatively down and out. Furthermore, there might even be treasures as gifts. Prince Yuanzhua's sacrifice was definitely worth it. As long as he could capture Su Zimo, he might be able to obtain the many divine powers, secret skills and jade talismans in Su Zimo's body. At that time, his chances of breaking through to the perfected immortal realm would be much higher. Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan gently with a smile. Heaven Abyss's expression was grim. Yang Ruoxu lowered his eyes with an indifferent expression. Heaven Immortal Green Peak was unmoved. The 4 Heaven Immortals had different expressions but none of them expressed anything, leaving Prince Yuanzhua on the spot. Time passed bit by bit. The longer things dragged on, the uglier Prince Yuanzhua's expression was and the more awkward the situation became. Prince Yuanzhua clenched his fists and grit his teeth. Although he had already let go of his dignity, the 4 Heaven Immortals had no intention of giving in. Right then, a figure sped over from afar at a shocking speed. In the blink of an eye, he arrived before them. It was a middle-aged man with gray hair. Every single move he made exuded an invisible might. The moment that person appeared, he stood in midair and his aura overwhelmed all the cultivators present. Even the 4 Heaven Immortals could not compare to him. This was a perfected immortal expert. Although everyone could not detect the middle-aged man's cultivation realm, they could vaguely determine it. When Su Zimo saw that person, he frowned and his expression changed slightly. He was certain that this was a perfected immortal. This was the former Green Cloud County Governor, perfected immortal Jing Yu. Chapter 2135. 2135 at odds. 2135 at odds. Within a carriage in the crowd. The girl said softly, Princess, you were right. Indeed, something unexpected happened. Even a perfected immortal has appeared. The plain-robed woman acknowledged and continued looking at the skies. A commotion broke out in the surrounding crowd. The immortal sect selection only selected Earth immortals. Be it the 4 immortal sects or the cultivators watching the battle, the strongest were Heaven Immortal experts. No matter which faction or world a perfected immortal expert was in, they were pillars of support and had noble statuses. Initially, Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu and the other 2 Heaven Immortals reigned supreme for the factions and all parties could maintain a balance. The descent of a perfected immortal broke that balance instantly. The 4 Heaven Immortals frowned when they saw that person. Prince Yuanzhua was delighted and hurried forward. Jing Yu, you're finally here. Both Prince Yuanzhua and perfected Immortal Jingyu suffered a huge blow because of Feng Cantian. Prince Yuanzhua lost the territory of Green Cloud County, and perfected Immortal Jingyu lost his position as the county governor. Of course, the two of them had interacted for many years and had some ties after all. Before Prince Yuanzhua received the mysterious letter and headed here, he sent a message to perfected Immortal Jingyu. He had already vaguely guessed that there was a high chance they would encounter many obstacles in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. That was the reason why he planned before making a move and invited perfected Immortal Jingyu out of seclusion to preside over the situation for him. Prince Yuanzhua was scheming and extremely smart. Otherwise, he would not have been able to become the prince in charge of Green Cloud County back then. He was even able to hide his true strength and confuse the world with a clone he cultivated. However, for some reason, he was plagued by bad luck all these years and suffered setbacks. Prince Yuanzhua blamed everything on Su Zimo. "Your Highness, I was delayed by something and came a little late." Perfected Immortal Jingyu cupped his fists towards Prince Yuanzhua and said in a deep voice, "You're not late. You came at the right time." Prince Yuanzhua pointed at Su Zimo, who was not far away, and said hatefully, "This sinner killed more than 100 execution guards of the Great Qing Immortal Kingdom in front of everyone. Right now, he's about to join the 4 immortal sections. We must capture him. If he manages to escape under my watch after killing so many execution guards, what will become of the reputation of our Great Qing Immortal Kingdom?" More than 100 execution guards died. Perfected Immortal Jingyu's expression darkened. He was the one who first discovered Su Zimo and brought him to Absolute Thunder City. That was the reason for the series of changes later on. If this matter was traced back to its origin, it would be difficult for him to escape responsibility. Therefore, even though he knew that it was inappropriate for a perfected immortal to appear for the immortal sect selection, he still came. Perfected Immortal Jingyu knew one thing as well. Although he was a perfected immortal, it would be difficult for him to make a move if Su Zimo were to join the 4 immortal sections. As his thoughts raced, perfected Immortal Jingyu looked at the 4 heaven immortals and cupped his fists. "Greetings, I'm Jingyu." "Greetings, exalted immortal." The 4 heaven immortals did not dare to be rude and stood up one after another. Although perfected Immortal Jingyu was not the Green Cloud County governor, he was still an expert among perfected immortals. The 4 heaven immortals had heard of him before. Perfected Immortal Jingyu did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "I know that it'll be difficult for the 4 of you to explain things if you hand Su Zimo over. How about this? The 4 of you, please give me some face. It's fine as long as you guys do not recruit this person on behalf of the 4 immortal sections." As long as no one from the 4 immortal sects recruited Su Zimo, Prince Yuanzhua could naturally attack without any reservations. The only thing he was wary of were the 4 immortal sections. A perfected immortal had appeared to demand Su Zimo. The reputation of a perfected immortal expert was completely different from Prince Yuanzhua. Perfected immortals represented another level of power. Even if the 4 heaven immortals were unwilling, they could not express it directly and go against perfected Immortal Jingyu head-on. Perfected Immortal Jingyu continued, "As long as the 4 of you are willing to agree, I won't decline if you look for me in the future for anything." The promise of a perfected immortal carried even more weight. It's over for Su Zimo. A perfected immortal of the Great Qing Immortal Kingdom has appeared and wants to capture him at all costs. That's expected as well. Think about it. How can a lowlife who offended a prince and killed so many execution guards survive? Many cultivators shook their heads emotionally. In midair, Su Zimo remained silent with a calm expression. The current situation no longer had anything to do with him. In other words, his life and death depended on a single thought of theirs. Since exalted Immortal Jingyu said that, I'll withdraw on behalf of Flying Immortal Sect. Heaven Immortal White Sea smiled gently and cupped his fists. Now that a perfected immortal had appeared, there was no need for him to continue pressing the matter. Furthermore, Zither Immortal Meng Yao was from the Great Qing Immortal Kingdom. If he took a step back first, he could consider that a favor as well. Perfected Immortal Jingyu nodded slightly with a smile. Not long ago, I even met Princess Meng Yao. If we meet again, I'll speak up for you in front of her. Thank you, Exalted Immortal. Heaven Immortal White Sea was delighted. It was enough if he could leave a good impression on Zither Immortal Meng Yao because of this. What do the three of you think? Perfected Immortal Jingyu swept his gaze towards Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu and Heaven Immortal Green Peak. There was a hint of pressure in his tone and gaze. Heaven Abyss's expression was still grim. Yang Ruoxu's expression was indifferent as he lowered his head. Heaven Immortal Green Peak looked restless and uneasy. Perfected Immortal Jingyu had been famous for a long time, and the people he befriended were all perfected immortal experts. In other words, only legacy disciples of Imperial Wind Temple were qualified to speak to him. Who knew if Perfected Immortal Jingyu had any ties with any legacy disciple of Imperial Wind Temple? It was truly not worth it to offend a legacy disciple of the sect because of this. Suddenly, Heaven Immortal Green Peak smiled. My side is easygoing. It's fine whether or not we recruit him. Exalted Immortal. It's better if you ask the other two about their stances. Heaven Immortal Green Peak set a trap. In reality, he did not say explicitly that he was not recruiting Su Zimo. Instead, he pushed the responsibility to Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu. If Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu backed off, he would not insist either and would go with the flow. If Heaven Abyss or Yang Ruoxu did not back off, Perfected Immortal Jingyu's attention would shift to the two of them. Perfected Immortal Jingyu sneered internally. Although he could tell what Heaven Immortal Green Peak was thinking, he did not expose him. Instead, he shifted his gaze towards Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu. I don't agree. Heaven Abyss suddenly spoke. Many cultivators were invigorated and their eyes lit up. He was taking it head-on. A Heaven Immortal expert of Mountain Sea Immortal Sect and a perfected immortal of the Great Qing Immortal Kingdom were at odds. At that moment, Su Zimo became nervous as well. When he came to take part in the Immortal Sect selection this time round, his inclination was towards Mountain Sea Immortal Sect. On the Dragon Abyss Star, he had conflicts with legacy disciples of the other three immortal sections. Although he did not expose his identity, he felt hesitant internally. Su Zimo did not care if Flying Immortal Sect withdrew. At the very least, Mountain Sea Immortal Sect was still around. Perfected Immortal Jingyu glared at Heaven Abyss with a dark gaze and said slowly, Heaven Abyss, the #1 of the previous Heaven ranking. Ferocious methods, dominating personality and completely fearless. I've long heard of you. Now that I've seen it for myself, you truly live up to your reputation. Although Perfected Immortal Jingyu praised Heaven Abyss openly, there was a hint of coldness in his tone. Chapter 2136. 2136 Shameless. 2136 Shameless. You flatter me. Heaven Abyss was expressionless and fearless. Exalted Immortal, before you descended, I've already decided to recruit this person. If I give up just because of a single sentence from you, others will think that Mountain Sea Immortal Sect is afraid of the Great Qing Immortal Kingdom. That will be bad for our sect's reputation. Although Heaven Abyss rarely spoke, he was extremely smart. He knew that given his status and cultivation realm, he could not fight against Perfected Immortal Jingyu. Therefore, he referred to his backing Mountain Sea Immortal Sect. Heaven Abyss's words were akin to hiding needles in cotton wool. Perfected Immortal Jingyu's expression darkened. If Heavenly Abyss truly wanted to go against him head-on, there was nothing he could do. There was no way he could kill Heaven Abyss in front of everyone. Heaven Abyss was not a nobody. If he attacked rashly and bullied the young, he would definitely offend Mountain Sea Immortal Sect. At that time, Mountain Sea Immortal Sect might even send Perfected Immortal experts to look for him. One of the 4 great fairies, the Chess Immortal, was in the Mountain Sea Immortal Sect. The Chess Immortal had a domineering personality and loved to fight. Although the 4 great fairies had not fought openly, there were long rumors that the Chess Immortal was the strongest among the 4 of them. Perfected Immortal Jingyu narrowed his eyes slightly with a dark expression, seemingly plotting something. Instantly, the entire coiling Dragon Mountain range turned extremely quiet. The atmosphere was a little stifling. Suddenly, Su Zimo felt a strong sense of danger, as though he was targeted by some terrifying figure and could face a calamity at any moment. This is bad. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Perfected Immortal Jingyu was wary of the Mountain Sea Immortal Sect and did not dare to attack Heaven Abyss. However, Perfected Immortal Jingyu could ignore others and attack him. Mountain Sea Immortal Sect would cause trouble for Perfected Immortal Jingyu if Heaven Abyss was suppressed. However, Su Zimo had yet to join the Mountain Sea Immortal Sect. Even if Perfected Immortal Jingyu killed him in public, Mountain Sea Immortal Sect would not have any conflict with Perfected Immortal Jingyu because of him, a grade 6 Earth Immortal who had ascended from the lower worlds. Within the carriage, the girl whispered, "Princess, Su Zimo's luck is not bad. Thankfully, Heavenly Abyss has the guts to stand out and withstand the pressure of Perfected Immortal Jingyu. Otherwise, he would be in trouble. Even if Heaven Abyss backs off, Yang Ruoxu will stand out." The plain-robed woman shook her head gently. Yang Ruoxu can be considered as a rising star of Heaven and Earth Academy. Although he's not the #1 Heaven Immortal of the Academy, he's upright and cultivated the Righteousness Sutra. He came from a lowly background and it's truly not easy for him to reach this point. Pausing for a moment, she continued, however, with the descent of a Perfected Immortal, Heaven Abyss and the other three are no longer able to control the situation. Fu. Ha 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 ha. Right then, Perfected Immortal Jingyu, who was in midair, suddenly laughed. His voice grew louder and many cultivators felt their ears buzz with a sharp pain. The laughter gradually stopped and Perfected Immortal Jingyu said coldly, "Heavenly Abyss, it's fine if you don't give me face." He changed the topic and looked at Su Zimo, who was not far away, saying slowly, however, "I'm going to suppress that lad in public today. Who can stop me?" The expressions of Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu and the others changed. As Perfected Immortal Jingyu had said, if he were to attack forcefully, no one would be able to stop him here. The difference between a Perfected Immortal and a Heaven Immortal was way too great. Furthermore, Perfected Immortal Jingyu was an expert among Perfected Immortals. There were 9 levels to the Black, Earth and Heaven Essence realms. However, after the 3 essences converged into the Perfected One realm, there were only 4 levels. Every single level was a huge gap. Perfected Immortal Jingyu had at least cultivated to level 3 of the Perfected One realm. Even if the previous #1 of the Heaven ranking was gathered, he would not be able to defend against Perfected Immortal Jingyu, let alone Heaven Abyss and the other 3. "Jingyu, hurry and capture Su Zimo." Prince Yuanzhua was delighted and invigorated. "Your Highness, please calm down. Since I've already decided to attack, this lad won't be able to escape." The moment he said that, Perfected Immortal Jingyu waved his robes and a gigantic dark golden palm extended from his wide and pitch-black sleeves, enveloping Su Zimo. The Supreme Divine Power, Star-Plucking Hand. When released by a Perfected Immortal, the same Supreme Divine Power created a completely different scene and might. The gigantic hand covered the skies and was filled with a dark golden glow. It fiddled with the galaxy as though it had come from the ancient era and wanted to suppress the world and punish all living beings. Against the might of that gigantic hand, it was already rare for anyone to not kneel on the ground, let alone resist. Heaven Abyss had an indignant expression as he growled and released a supreme divine power. At the same time, Yang Ruoxu at the side attacked once more. The 2 Heaven Immortals resisted the might of Perfected Immortal Jingyu, and wanted to block the gigantic hand in midair. However, their supreme divine powers dissipated when they collided with Perfected Immortal Jingyu's star-plucking hand. It was like a moth flying into a flame without causing any ripples. The difference was too great. As Perfected Immortal Jingyu had said, no one could stop him if he attacked. How shameless to bully the weak! Suddenly, a voice sounded from the battlefield. Right on the heels of that, a divine light suddenly descended and no one could see how or where it came from. It was completely imperceivable. However, it appeared in midair and slashed down at the star-plucking hand that shone with starlight. Qing! The divine light streaked across the star-plucking hand and sliced the gigantic hand into 2 with an ear-piercing sound. Boom! 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 Right in front of many cultivators, the hand that was sliced into 2 collapsed and shattered rapidly. After a momentary silence, the entire coiling Dragon Mountain range was in an uproar. Perfected Immortal Jingyu's attack was resolved by someone. Apart from Perfected Immortal Jingyu, there were other Perfected Immortal experts here. Who is there? Perfected Immortal Jing Yu's heart skipped a beat as he surveyed his surroundings and asked loudly with a sharp gaze. Nobody replied. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu had a grim expression. It was normal for this person to be able to neutralize his supreme divine power. However, he could not even tell the origin of the divine light earlier on or sense the location of this person. That was a little terrifying. This meant that there was a high chance this person was much stronger than him. Who could this person be? Why would this person appear in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range? Why did this person want to save Su Zimo? Why did this person not appear after attacking? Doubts flashed through Perfected Immortal Jing Yu's mind in the blink of an eye. The person's voice earlier on was erratic. Not only could he not identify the voice, he could not even tell if it was a man or woman. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu's reaction surprised many cultivators present. A Perfected Immortal attacked earlier on, but Perfected Immortal Jing Yu could not find where the person was. Su Zimo was puzzled as well after escaping this calamity. Even he could not imagine that any Perfected Immortal in the heavenly world would help him. The only Perfected Immortal he knew was Feng Zi's master, Burial Knight. However, this person's style was way too different from Burial Knight. If it was Burial Knight, he would have launched an assassination attempt on Perfected Immortal Jing Yu directly. Why would he say something like, "How shameless to bully the weak"? Chapter 2137. 2137 Sound of the Strings. 2137 Sound of the Strings. Within the carriage. The girl covered her mouth and stifled her laughter, sending a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness. Princess, well scolded. That person is way too shameless. He's clearly a Perfected Immortal expert, but he wants to attack an Earth Immortal. Because the girl was closer to Prince Yun Ting, she was displeased with Su Zimo. However, she despised Perfected Immortal Jing Yu's actions even more. The plain-robed woman smiled indifferently. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu surveyed his surroundings and sneered with a mocking expression. Sir, aren't you being too shameless by hiding? How shameless to bully the weak. The voice sounded once more erratically and everyone present was shocked. No one could discover the location of the person who spoke. However, this time round, everyone heard it clearly. It was a woman. Su Zimo recalled carefully. He had never heard that voice before. He should not know this person. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu was secretly frustrated and said in a deep voice, "Since you want to be a busybody, why don't you show yourself? Let me see who you are as well. You can't even find me and you think you're worthy of me appearing?" The woman's tone was indifferent with a hint of disdain. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu fell silent with a terrible expression. What are you thinking about? Why aren't you attacking yet? Prince Yuanzhua was still concerned about Su Zimo and wanted Perfected Immortal Jing Yu to attack once more to capture Su Zimo alive. Your Highness, there's an expert here. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu said bitterly. Even if I attack with my full strength, I'm probably not a match for this person. We might have to return fruitless today. Actually, there was something that Perfected Immortal Jing Yu did not say. In fact, he suspected that the person who attacked earlier on was the Chess Immortal of Mountain Sea Immortal Sect. Although the four great fairies had different personalities, none of them were easy to deal with. More than 2,000 years ago, he had suffered a loss against one of them. Back then, an ice butterfly appeared outside Glass City beneath Green Cloud County. He chased after it and severely injured it. Unexpectedly, the ice butterfly escaped with serious injuries and attracted Perfected Immortals of many factions to descend and fight for it. In the end, the ice butterfly was saved by one of the four great fairies, the Painting Immortal. At that time, they were in the territory of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom after all. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu was unwilling to let the Painting Immortal take the ice butterfly away. Therefore, he fought the latter and suffered a crushing defeat. It was said that the Painting Immortal of the four great fairies had a calm personality and did not like to fight. She was the weakest among the four great fairies. Even so, Perfected Immortal Jing Yu was not her match. If the belligerent Chess Immortal had truly descended, he would have even less chance of winning. We have to leave just like this. Prince Yuan's eyes were filled with deep indignation. Although Su Zimo was not far away, he was helpless. He even invited a perfected immortal out of seclusion but to no avail. Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu heaved a sigh of relief. Heaven Abyss was in Mountain Sea Immortal Sect with the Chess Immortal, and he knew more about the latter. He knew in his heart that the person who attacked earlier on could not have been the Chess Immortal. Given the domineering nature of the Chess Immortal, she would definitely not be secretive if she descended here and wanted to severely injure perfected immortal Jingyu. However, no matter what, the person who attacked was helping them in secret. Heaven Abyss looked at Su Zimo and said hurriedly, "Hurry and tell us. Between our Mountain Sea Immortal Sect and Heaven and Earth Academy, who do you choose? Imperial Wind Temple as well." At that moment, Heaven Immortal Green Peak jumped out in time when he saw that perfected immortal Jingyu was disadvantaged. If the three immortal sects wanted him at the same time, it would depend on Su Zimo's final choice. "I choose." Su Zimo had just said 2 words when a zither sound sounded in midair. The sound of the strings rustled and possessed a strange power, as though it was strumming the heartstrings of many cultivators. Su Zimo could not say anything else. Even the massive coiling Dragon Mountain range turned silent against the sound of the zither. Immediately after, a figure walked over from the distant skies. Initially it was far away. Before the sound of the zither dissipated completely, the figure had already arrived. It was a tall woman in plain blue palace robes. She was beautiful and flawless with an extraordinary aura. She had a cold expression and surveyed her surroundings, as though she was searching for someone. Cultivators who met the woman's gaze would either avert their gazes instinctively or lower their heads slightly. It was as though taking another look at this woman was a blasphemy to her. Zither Immortal Meng Yao. Only Zither Immortal Meng Yao could silence millions of cultivators in coiling Dragon Mountain range and have them behave respectfully with a single sound of the zither strings. "Princess, it's her," the girl said softly. The plain-robed woman frowned slightly and raised her hand to stop the girl from speaking. She looked at the figure in midair through the curtain of the carriage. "Greetings, Princess Meng Yao." When perfected immortal Jingyu saw the woman in palace robes, he was delighted and hurried forward to bow. At the same time, he gave Prince Yuanzhua a look. Prince Yuanzhua was way too smart and reacted instantly. He ran over as well with reddened eyes and said tragically, "Sister Meng Yao, you're finally here." Actually, Prince Yuanzhua did not know that Zither Immortal Meng Yao would descend here. Even with his status, there was no way he could request Meng Yao to do anything. However, when he said that, it gave others the feeling that he was the reason why Zither Immortal Meng Yao came. "That's the Zither Immortal. She's truly beautiful." To think that the 4 great fairies Zither Immortal would be alerted to this immortal sect selection. This trip was truly worth it. The crowd below still did not dare to speak loudly as they whispered, as though they were afraid of disturbing the beauty. "Greetings, Fairy Meng Yao." Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu and Heaven Immortal Green Peak stood up and bowed. "Greetings, Senior Sister Meng Yao." Heaven Immortal White Sea put away his folding fan as well and reverently put away his playful expression. Meng Yao merely nodded slightly and asked, "Have you guys seen 2 people, a man and a woman, using dermic treasures in the form of a flute and zither as their weapon?" "Never." The 4 Heaven Immortals exchanged glances and shook their heads. Su Zimo remained silent. He knew that Zither Immortal Meng Yao had descended here to hunt down Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. However, the 2 of them did not participate in the immortal sect selection at all. Meng Yao was slightly disappointed when she did not see Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. In a flash, she turned to leave. "Sister Meng Yao." Right then, Prince Yuanzhua suddenly shouted. Meng Yao frowned slightly in impatience. When she saw that Prince Yuanzhua's eyes were red as though he had suffered quite a bit and thought about how they shared the same father after all, she paused in her tracks and asked coldly, "What's wrong?" "Sister Meng Yao, there's someone here who might know where the 2 of them are," Prince Yuanzhua suddenly said. Meng Yao's heart skipped a beat as she focused her gaze and asked in a deep voice, "Who is it?" "Him." Prince Yuanzhua pointed at Su Zimo in the crowd and said sternly, "A few months ago, he was the one who killed the 13 execution guards outside Songyu City." Meng Yao followed Prince Yuanzhua's finger and looked over. The 13 execution guards were under her orders to hunt down Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. If they were truly killed by an outsider, there was indeed a chance that this person knew the location of Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. Even if he did not know, this person was definitely related to Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. Chapter 2138. 2138 Might of the Zither Immortals. 2138 Might of the Zither Immortal. Prince Yuanzhua was smart. He knew very well that there was no way Meng Yao would bother to deal with Su Zimo because of him. Furthermore, doing that might cause a feud with the four immortal sections. However, if he linked Su Zimo with the two of them, even if it was only a possibility, it would be enough to attract Meng Yao's attention. Prince Yuanzhua wanted to make use of Meng Yao to deal with the four immortal sects and Su Zimo. In reality, as he had expected, Meng Yao had indeed placed her attention on Su Zimo at the mention of this. When Prince Yuanzhua saw that, he seized the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. I led more than 100 execution guards to suppress this person and bring him back to the great Qing Immortal Kingdom. However, this person was way too arrogant and openly declared war on the great Qing Immortal Kingdom in front of everyone during the Immortal Sect selection, killing all the execution guards. Right now, these people from the four immortal sects are trying their best to recruit him and did not stop even when Jingyu appeared. They must truly think that our great Qing Immortal Kingdom is weak to look down on and humiliate us as such. Prince Yuanzhua's tone was agitated and he looked sorrowful, as though he had suffered immense grievances. To begin with, Meng Yao exuded an aloof aura that prevented strangers from approaching. When she heard that, her cold expression and beautiful eyes were even filled with a chilling intent. Heaven Immortal White Sea was sweating profusely when he heard that. He stood out hurriedly and said, "Your Highness, you have to make things clear. I represented Flying Immortal Sect and withdrew a long time ago. On account of my senior sister here, there was no way I would have ever become enemies with you or the great Qing Immortal Kingdom." "Yes," Prince Yuanzhua said, fellow Taoist White Sea withdrew indeed, but the other three of them were insistent. They were even willing to fight me to protect this sinner. Prince Yuanzhua continued to add fuel to the fire. Heaven Immortal Green Peak cursed internally, but he still forced a smile. "Fairy Meng Yao, please calm down. I'll withdraw on behalf of Imperial Wind Temple and no longer recruit this person." He had not expected Zither Immortal Meng Yao to suddenly appear here. Although they were both perfected immortals, Zither Immortal Meng Yao's reputation and combat strength were much greater than perfected immortal Jingyu. Even some immortal kings had to treat the Zither Immortal with respect when they saw her. Now that the Zither Immortal was here, even if Su Zimo was someone like Yun Ting, Imperial Wind Temple would not dare to accept him, let alone the fact that he was a mere monster incarnate with immense potential. If the legacy disciples of Imperial Wind Temple knew that he had offended Zither Immortal Meng Yao because of a grade 6 Earth Immortal, they would probably skin him alive. Meng Yao shifted her gaze towards Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu and asked indifferently, "Why? You guys still want to protect this person?" Meng Yao's tone was calm and emotionless. However, it contained an unimaginable pressure. She was the Zither Immortal. She was not only a perfected immortal, she was backed by a deep network of major factions and many top experts. It was no exaggeration to say that even if an immortal king offended the Zither Immortal, he might be killed by other immortal kings. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Instantly, countless gazes landed on Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu. At that moment, both of them were under immense pressure. That pressure was not something a Heaven Immortal could endure. In other words, even if most of the perfected immortals of Mountain Sea Immortal Sect and Heaven and Earth Academy were to arrive, they would not be able to withstand the same pressure as well. Time passed. Even a few breaths seemed like 100 years. "Since Fairy Meng Yao is here," Heaven Abyss finally spoke and said slowly, "On behalf of Mountain Sea Immortal Sect, I'll withdraw from the competition and no longer recruit this person." When he heard that, a look of disappointment flashed through Su Zimo's eyes. Of course, there was no resentment in his heart. He could sense Heaven Abyss's helplessness. He was merely disappointed. He was disappointed in Heaven Abyss and Mountain Sea Immortal Sect. Many cultivators were filled with emotions when they saw that. This was the might of the Zither Immortal. After descending, she did not say much or gave any threats, much less attack. Even so, 3 Heaven Immortals had to lower their heads to retreat to avoid her sharpness. If nothing went wrong, Yang Ruoxu would relent as well. Now that he was the only one left among the 4 heaven immortals, the pressure on him would increase 100-fold. His reputation and combat strength were far inferior to Heaven Abyss and the others. It was impossible for him to withstand it. Yang Ruoxu stood on the spot and lowered his head slightly. There were no emotions on his bronze face as he remained silent. Zither Immortal, Fufu. How impressive. Suddenly, a woman's voice sounded in midair with a hint of mockery. The crowd was astonished. Someone dared to speak to the Zither Immortal in such a tone. Perfected Immortal Qing Yu's expression changed as he said hurriedly, "Princess, I tried to step in earlier on to suppress Su Zimo. This was the person who attacked in secret and saved him. I'm ashamed to say that I could not locate her. Please take charge, Princess." Meng Yao was not angered when she heard that voice. After pondering for a moment, she turned to look at a carriage in the crowd of coiling Dragon Mountain Range and asked with a frown, "It's you?" She was extremely surprised when she recognized the person. This person truly should not have appeared here. That's right. The voice of the plain-robed woman sounded from within the carriage. The cultivators around the carriage were scared out of their wits and avoided the carriage one after another, afraid that they would be implicated. This carriage was way too ordinary. It was so ordinary that it would not attract anyone's attention in the crowd. However, the carriage was covered by the curtains and outsiders could not see what was going on inside. Even their spirit consciousnesses could not scan inside. Only Prince Yunlei, who was not far away, frowned with a confused expression. Although the voice sounded familiar, it was impossible. His sister cultivated silently in the library all year round and rarely saw anyone. Even he would not be able to request an audience with her. Why would she suddenly appear here? "So you're hiding here." Perfected Immortal Qing Yu's gaze intensified as he glared at the carriage and said coldly, "How dare you hide? Let me see who you are." With that said, Perfected Immortal Qing Yu advanced and was ready to attack. However, Meng Yao waved her sleeves and released a tremendous power, forcing Perfected Immortal Qing Yu back. Perfected Immortal Qing Yu was stunned for a moment and was about to ask. Meng Yao said indifferently, "You're not her match. Don't embarrass yourself." Perfected Immortal Qing Yu's face flushed red instantly. He took deep breaths repeatedly before calming down and smiling bitterly. "Indeed, I had behaved recklessly." However, the other cultivators were shocked and were even more curious about the woman in the carriage. "Why, you know this grade 6 Earth Immortal?" Meng Yao glared at the carriage and asked. "No." Within the carriage, the plain-robed woman replied. The girl at the side shook her head repeatedly with an anxious expression, reminding the plain-robed woman not to be reckless. Meng Yao smiled and asked again, "You want to interfere even if you don't know him?" "I just can't stand the way the great Qing Immortal Kingdom bullies others, so I want to interfere." The plain-robed woman's tone was indifferent and she did not give in at all. "Fufu, interesting." Meng Yao smiled like a snow lotus blossoming with a hint of coldness in her beauty. She said slowly, "This person killed more than 100 execution guards of the great Qing Immortal Kingdom. His crimes are unforgivable and he deserves to die. You don't know him yet you want to stand up for him? You want to offend the great Qing Immortal Kingdom and Flying Immortal Sect at the same time because of someone unrelated." Meng Yao's tone intensified and even her aura turned murderous. This was a sign that she was prepared to fight at any moment. Chapter 2139. 2139 Butterfly. 2139 Butterfly. Within the carriage. The girl was so anxious that she was about to cry. "Princess, don't be rash." The girl sent a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness. "Su Zimo has nothing to do with us. There's no need for us to offend the Zither Immortal just because of him. Your identity is special and every single move you make represents the Zixuan Immortal Kingdom. If you fall out with the great Qing Immortal Kingdom and Flying Immortal Sect because of this person, it's truly unwise. I'm afraid King Zixuan will even blame you." The plain-robed woman was silent. Part of the reason why she paid attention to Su Zimo was because before Yun Ting entered seclusion, he had instructed her to pay attention to news of this person so that they could fight again in the future. On the other hand, it was also because she discovered that Su Zimo might be hiding a secret and was curious. However, in reality, the girl beside her was not wrong. Indeed, she had nothing to do with Su Zimo. In fact, they had never even met or spoken, let alone had any relationship. The reason why she attacked earlier on was out of righteousness. Ever since she was young, she could not stand the injustice of the world and wanted to fight against it. As such, she offended many factions and caused many troubles. Later on, her father locked her in the library to punish her. In her father's words, he wanted to grind down that scholarly justice of hers. To think that she would undergo a baptism, consolidation and transformation in the library. Although she rarely appeared, her reputation in Divine Firmament mainland grew considerably. Later on, although her father had already released her, she was also unwilling to leave the library so easily. The plain-robed woman was well aware of the filth and corruption of the outside world that she could not change single-handedly. Since she could not change it and was unwilling to go along with the flow, she might as reside in the library. Her mind was more at peace without seeing everything that was out there. With books as companions, she read through history and experienced the majesty of many ancient eras through words. She comprehended the endless secrets contained in the words. That was the meaning of life that she pursued. The plain-robed woman hesitated. As the girl had said, she did not know Su Zimo at all. Was she going to offend Meng Yao and fight over such a person? She was a princess of the Zixuan Immortal Kingdom and her every move would remind one of the Zixuan Immortal Kingdom. She had too many reservations. The plain-robed woman was silent and outsiders naturally did not know of her inner conflict. In the eyes of the outsiders, Meng Yao's torrential aura and brazen questioning had forced back the woman in the carriage. Silence was concession. If even the perfected immortal expert in the carriage chose to retreat, Su Zimo's fate was already decided. When Meng Yao saw that there was no longer any sound coming from the carriage, she seemed to be wary and did not push further. She turned to Prince Yuanzhua and said, "Take Su Zimo away and return to the great Jin Immortal Kingdom." Understood. Prince Yuanzhua was delighted and moved forward, prepared to capture Su Zimo. Right then, a tall figure stood in front of Su Zimo. He was tall and straight with a sharp face. His bronze skin revealed a hint of resoluteness as he said with a firm gaze, "This is inappropriate." It was Yang Ruoxu of Heaven and Earth Academy. A commotion broke out in the crowd. Many cultivators looked at Yang Ruoxu in disbelief. Now that Zither Immortal Meng Yao had appeared and the three Heaven Immortals had retreated in cowardice, even the perfected Immortal in the carriage had taken a step back. Who would dare to stand out? On the surface, Yang Ruoxu was stopping Prince Yuanzhua. However, in reality, he was stopping Zither Immortal Meng Yao. Prince Yuanzhua shrugged his shoulders slightly and did not say anything. That was because he knew that he did not even have to step in for this matter. Meng Yao frowned slightly and looked at Yang Ruoxu with cold eyes, asking indifferently, "Who are you?" Yang Ruoxu cupped his fists and said in a deep voice, "I'm Yang Ruoxu, from Heaven and Earth ACA." Never heard before. Before Yang Ruoxu could finish, he was interrupted coldly by Fairy Meng Yao. Meng Yao said, "I've heard of many people in Heaven and Earth Academy, including the #1 immortal of the Academy, but I've never heard of any Yang Ruoxu." Sister Meng Yao, he ascended from the lower worlds. Prince Yuan's was said at the side. "Oh, no wonder." Meng Yao smirked with a hint of mockery. "So, he's just a lowlife. That explains why he doesn't know how to behave." The muscles on Yang Ruoxu's face trembled slightly. Although his emotions were surging, he still had a calm expression. "I'm just a junior of the Academy and indeed don't have much of a reputation. It's normal for you to not have heard of me, Fairy Meng Yao." Meng Yao shook her head gently. "What's up with Heaven and Earth Academy? They actually sent a lowlife who doesn't know how to behave to host the Immortal Sect selection. They're truly getting worse. Since it's an arrangement of the Academy, I don't dare to make any rash decisions on my own accord. I only know that I have to fulfill my duty for this trip," Yang Ruoxu said expressionlessly. "Oh, and your duty is?" Meng Yao asked. Yang Ruoxu said, "To select the most suitable disciples for our sect." Pausing for a moment he continued, "I can't cower because of any external obstacle." "Humph." Meng Yao harumphed coldly. Yang Ruoxu was interrupted once more before he could finish. This time round, Meng Yao merely harumphed. However, it was as though a gigantic hammer had landed on his chest and struck his heart heavily. Yang Ruoxu's face turned purple and he felt his chest turn stuffy. It was extremely uncomfortable and his heart felt like it was about to explode. If Zither Immortal Meng Yao wanted to kill him, she wouldn't even have to lift a finger. This is just a small lesson for you. Meng Yao said coldly, if you push your luck and don't know what's good for you, I can kill you right now. The many cultivators of Heaven and Earth Academy were trembling in fear. That was a blatant threat. Nobody dared to doubt the Zither Immortal's methods. Meng Yao said, let me tell you, even if Sword Immortal Yu Hua of Heaven and Earth Academy comes here today, he has to give me face. Who do you think you are? Yang Ruoxu laughed bitterly. Fairy Meng Yao, please step in and get the academy to send senior brother Yu Hua over to replace me. I'll naturally have nothing to say about that. Meng Yao's expression turned cold and killing intent surged in her eyes. The repeated provocation of this Heaven Immortal had triggered her killing intent. Perfected Immortal Jingyu was wary of Heaven and Earth Academy, and did not dare to attack Yang Ruoxu and the others. However, she did not have many reservations. She was the Zither Immortal. Even if she killed this unknown Heaven Immortal, she believed that Heaven and Earth Academy would not offend her. Senior brother Yang, please come back. A cultivator of the academy could not help but say. Lu Wenbin was anxious as well. Senior brother Yang, he hasn't joined the sect yet. Why would you risk your life to offend exalted Immortal Meng Yao for an outsider? What nonsense are you guys talking about? Yang Ruoxu suddenly turned around and shouted. I joined the academy and cultivated the Righteousness Sutra. I have to have a clear conscience for everything I do. This person has already won the Immortal Sect selection, and is qualified to join the 4 Immortal sections. How can he be considered as an outsider? Although the Zither Immortal is powerful, what rights does she have to take him away? If I retreat today, I won't be able to cultivate any righteousness. Yang Ruoxu said those words indignantly in an impassioned manner. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he was moved. All right, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Meng Yao said coldly with an indifferent expression. The moment she said that, the sound of a zither sounded in midair. The sound of the zither possessed a strange demonic power and ripples appeared in the void, spreading towards Yang Ruoxu. Although the ripples looked weak, Yang Ruoxu could not defend against them at all. Right then, a snow-white butterfly suddenly flew out of nowhere and entered the battlefield. Chapter 2140. 2140 Fairy Mo Qing. 2140 Fairy Mo Qing. The butterfly was inconspicuous and was only the size of a palm. It barged into the battlefield and flapped its wings gently above the ripples created by the sound of the zither. Crack, crack, crack. Instantly, a layer of frost covered the ripples in midair and they froze under countless gazes. The cultivators were shocked. This was the attack of Zither Immortal Meng Yao. Even without using her full strength, it was not something that any ordinary person could defend against. If that snow-white butterfly could neutralize the attack of Zither Immortal Meng Yao, its cultivation realm must be at the perfected immortal realm as well. Where did the butterfly come from and what was its background? When perfected immortal Jing Yu saw the snow-white butterfly, he frowned and his gaze froze as he whispered, it seems to be the ice butterfly that escaped from Green Cloud County. Back when the ice butterfly was just born and awakened, its combat strength was far from its peak and it was severely injured by him. From the looks of it, the combat strength of the ice butterfly should have recovered to its peak. If they were to fight again, he might not be able to gain any advantage. The moment perfected immortal Jingyu said that, he felt a chill run down his spine. The ice butterfly was staring at him not far away with obvious hostility. It's indeed that ice butterfly. Perfected immortal Jingyu's heart skipped a beat. At the same time, he recalled something. At that time, the severely injured ice butterfly was saved by one of the 4 great fairies, the Painting Immortal. Did the sudden appearance of the ice butterfly mean that? At that thought, perfected immortal Jingyu looked at Zither Immortal Meng Yao hurriedly and sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. Princess Meng Yao, watch out. There's a chance. He did not finish. He realized that everyone was looking in the same direction. He looked over instinctively as well. In the distant horizon, a woman was heading over. The woman had a graceful figure and light steps. She wore a tube dress and a silk veil with a slender waist. Her black hair was tied into a bun and her eyes were clear as water. Her skin was smooth and she had an orchid-like aura. Many cultivators seemed to see a drop of ink fall into the water and gradually disperse, forming an elegant and ancient ink painting. This woman was like a fairy that had walked out of a painting and was breathtakingly beautiful. The moment they saw the woman, many cultivators were stunned. Even the peerless and beautiful Zither Immortal could not conceal this woman's brilliance. Their beauty was completely different. This woman's beauty was even more reserved and ancient. Even Zimo, who had seen many beauties, was slightly dazed when he caught sight of this woman and could not help but exclaim internally. Before the cultivators could react, the woman had already arrived and stood opposite Zither Immortal Meng Yao. The ice butterfly flew around Zimo before returning to the woman's side and landing on her shoulder. Naturally, no one noticed that. Everyone's gazes were attracted by the woman. Who would notice the ice butterfly's actions? When Yang Ruoxu saw the woman, he heaved a sigh of relief. Enduring the tightness in his chest, he bowed and said in a deep voice, "Greetings, Senior Sister Mo Qing." Painting Immortal Mo Qing. 2 of the 4 great fairies had arrived. A commotion broke out in the crowd. Be it the cultivators who were here to take part in the Immortal Sect selection or watch the battle, none of them expected that they would have the chance to catch a glimpse of the glory of the 2 fairies. "So, it's younger sister Mo Qing. It's been a long time. How have you been, sister?" Meng Yao chuckled. Fairy Mo Qing did not reply and merely glanced sideways at Yang Ruoxu beside her. She waved her sleeves gently and bumped into Yang Ruoxu's chest. Yang Ruoxu shuddered and could not help but spit out a huge mouthful of blood. The blood was pitch black and looked a little terrifying. Earlier on, Yang Ruoxu was injured by Meng Yao's sound domain. His chest felt stuffy and his heart felt like it was about to explode. It was extremely uncomfortable and he endured it the entire time. Now that he spat out that mouthful of blood, he felt his blood chi clear and the discomfort from earlier on lessened significantly. "Thank you, senior sister." Yang Ruoxu expressed his thanks once more. Meng Yao noticed this and pondered. Fairy Mo Qing nodded before looking at Meng Yao opposite her and asking directly, "Why did you hurt a disciple of my academy?" "Him." Meng Yao glanced at Yang Ruoxu and smiled. "Sister, I was just helping you teach a lesson to a lowlife who doesn't know how to behave himself." "What happened?" Fairy Mo Qing looked at Yang Ruoxu and asked softly. Yang Ruoxu hurriedly recounted the many changes that happened during the Immortal Sect selection, from Zimo entering the valley to Meng Yao attacking him earlier on. Fairy Mo Qing's beautiful eyes shifted to Zimo and lingered for a moment before looking away. "The disciples of our academy will naturally be disciplined by our academy. There's no place for outsiders to interfere." After Fairy Mo Qing heard that, she said to Meng Yao, "In addition, Yang Ruoxu did not do anything wrong. Your younger brother was the one who broke the rules, right?" Many cultivators were secretly speechless. Who would have thought that today's matter would develop into such a situation? The Immortal Sect selection that was only held once every 100 years had now attracted 2 fairies and they were even in a standoff. The atmosphere was tense. "Fu-fu." Meng Yao smiled. "Why, Sister Mo Qing, are you angry with me because of a lowlife?" "Yang Ruoxu is not a lowlife. He's a disciple of our academy." Fairy Mo Qing glared at Meng Yao and said word by word. The smugness in Meng Yao's eyes intensified as she shook her head and sighed. To think that the painting Immortal of Divine Firmament Mainland, my dear sister Mo Qing, would fall into the sea of love one day. "What did you say?" Fairy Mo Qing frowned. "Isn't it obvious enough?" Meng Yao smiled. Notwithstanding the fact that Yang Ruoxu is just a lowlife, his cultivation realm is only at the Heaven Immortal realm. However, you're willing to get angry at me for his sake and confront me, Sister Mo Qing. Our many years of relationship can't compare to your lover. The moment she said that, everyone was in an uproar. One of the 4 great fairies, the painting Immortal, already had someone she fancied. This was explosive news that would even cause discussions in the entire nine-firmament immortal domain. Fairy Mo Qing's face turned pale instantly as she clenched her fists instinctively. She glared at Meng Yao with her beautiful eyes. It was clear that she was extremely angry. Su Zimo cussed internally. This Zither immortal was way too vicious. Regardless of whether or not Fairy Mo Qing had such a relationship with Yang Ruoxu. Even if there was, it was the most secretive matter between the two of them. Now that Meng Yao suddenly exposed it, the consequences for Yang Ruoxu and Fairy Mo Qing would be extremely serious. Needless to say, Yang Ruoxu would have to deal with hostility and pressure. Fairy Mo Qing would also become the topic of gossip for countless cultivators. At that time, countless vicious words and filthy rumors would be splashed on Fairy Mo Qing. Furthermore, Su Zimo watched coldly from the sidelines. When he saw Yang Ruoxu and Fairy Mo Qing's reactions, it did not seem like there was such a relationship. Meng Yao was setting up a vicious plot. She wanted to destroy the painting immortal with a few words. Chapter 2141. 2141 The Terror of Words. 2141 The Terror of Words. Within the carriage. The plain-robed woman frowned and suddenly said, Meng Yao has such a vicious mind. To think that she would want to destroy Mo Qing's reputation and Dao heart. As one of the four great fairies, Mo Qing is ranked alongside you. She shouldn't be defeated so easily, right? The girl could not believe it. The plain-robed woman said, among the four of us, Fairy Mo Qing is the quietest and doesn't like to fight. She's immersed in the Tao of painting and is relatively simple-minded. Meng Yao's words are indeed vicious and will hurt her immensely. The girl was still skeptical as she shook her head. How can a few mere words hold such power? You're too young and haven't left the palace much. You don't know the dangers of the outside world. The plain-robed woman said, although Meng Yao only said a few words, you have to understand that there are millions of cultivators and mouths here. Before long, this matter will spread through the entire divine firmament mainland and even the nine firmament. At that time, countless mouths will be talking about this matter. A crowd's mouth can melt metal and destroy bones. At that time, countless rumors will spread in divine firmament mainland. The power of human words is much more terrifying than you can imagine. The girl frowned. But Meng Yao's words are baseless. Would anyone believe her? Isn't it normal for fellow sect mates to help one another? The plain-robed woman sighed gently. Rumors are always easier to spread than the truth. The girl was even more puzzled. Which do you think will bring about more attention? The fact that the painting immortal stood in to help a fellow sect mate, or her having someone she fancies? The plain-robed woman asked instead. Naturally, the latter, the girl replied. The plain-robed woman nodded and said, most of the time, people only believe in what they want to believe and don't care about the truth. Rumors stop at wise men. However, there aren't many wise men in this world after all. Pausing for a moment, she sighed gently. Meng Yao's insight into the human heart is way too terrifying. She's trying to make use of everyone's mouths to destroy Fairy Mo Qing's reputation. In midair. Bullshit. Fairy Mo Qing was furious, but she did not know how to explain things right away. She did not want to explain either. Meng Yao's words were way too ridiculous. How could anyone believe her? But soon, Fairy Mo Qing realized that Meng Yao's words were like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples and caused a huge reaction in the crowd. Many cultivators were already looking at her with strange gazes. Meng Yao, aren't you way too vicious to want to destroy senior sister Mo Qing's reputation? Although Yang Ruoxu was only a heaven immortal, he could not help but shout at Meng Yao. Phew! Meng Yao was not angered and said with a smile, why? The two of you can do it, but you won't allow others to speak about it? I know Sister Mo Qing's character the best. She stands aloof from worldly affairs and spends her days drawing flowers, birds, fish and insects. Why would she suddenly appear here? The only explanation is that someone met with danger here. Furthermore, this must be someone who could have her sacrifice everything and come over. The moment Sister Mo Qing arrived, she began to heal you. It's clear how much she cares about you. Nonsense. Mo Qing's body trembled slightly. She was obsessed with painting and did not like fuss. Therefore, she rarely interacted with others. The reason why her reputation grew was because every now and then, she would create paintings that experts of the upper world would fight for. She had no experience in dealing with the situation before her and did not know how to defend herself. I thought that the painting Immortal was some pure and innocent fairy. So, she has human needs as well. It's no wonder why Yang Ruoxu is here to host the Immortal Sect selection despite his unknown background. In my opinion, it might be because of the painting Immortal. She can't be considered as the painting Immortal anymore, right? Now that she's Dao companions with someone else, she would be removed from the four great fairies. Right, do you guys think that the painting Immortal and Yang Ruoxu had? Hee hee. The crowd was noisy and the content of their discussions was getting more unbearable. Although some cultivators felt that it was not the truth because the painting Immortal did not admit to anything during this period of time, it was useless. They were drowned by the other voices before long. This was the state of the rumor in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range alone. Who knew what would happen when it spread further? Meng Yao smiled calmly and was smug internally. The impact of this matter would last for a long time. Even if Fairy Mo Qing could stabilize her Dao heart, her reputation would be completely destroyed and she might not even have a chance to break through in the future. That was not important. Most importantly, for Meng Yao from this day forth, one of the four great fairies was gone. That meant one less opponent for her. If she had the chance, she would even want to destroy the other two fairies as well. It would be best if there was only a single fairy in Divine Firmament mainland that countless cultivators admired, the Zither Immortal. Ha 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 ha. Right then, a burst of laughter sounded from midair. It was extremely loud and penetrated the clouds, even drowning out the discussions of many cultivators. Everyone looked over instinctively. Su Zimo was holding his belly and laughing non-stop, as though he had discovered the funniest thing in the world. If not for that laughter, almost everyone would have forgotten about him. Everyone, do you know why Prince Yuanzhua is chasing after me? Su Zimo retracted his smile and asked mysteriously. The crowd fell silent once more as many cultivators waited for Su Zimo to continue. Su Zimo said, "That's because I discovered the greatest secret of Prince Yuanzhua, or rather, the royal family of the great Qing Immortal Kingdom." What nonsense are you talking about? Prince Yuanzhua barked coldly. Su Zimo sneered internally and continued, Prince Yuanzhua and Zither Immortal Meng Yao have already secretly become Dao companions and have had an illicit affair since a long time ago. The place fell into an uproar. This news was even more shocking. Even if the prince and princess were of different mothers, this was the greatest scandal of the great Qing royal family. To hell with you! Prince Yuanzhua was so angry that his face was green as he cursed. The smile on Meng Yao's face froze as well. Su Zimo said, if that's not the case, why would Prince Yuanzhua travel thousands of kilometers and even lead more than 100 execution guards to kill me? Given Prince Yuanzhua's current status, how can he activate perfected immortals? And now, not only has perfected immortal Jingyu appeared, even Fairy Meng Yao is here. It's obvious why. Su Zimo sneered, why? You want to kill me because you're more powerful when you join forces as both siblings and husband and wife? Within the carriage, the plain-robed woman could not help but burst into laughter. Uncontrollably, she shook her head. This Su Zimo sure has a sharp tongue. Princess, could he be telling the truth? The girl was stunned by Su Zimo and asked instinctively. Dear child, how is that possible? The plain-robed woman shook her head gently and said helplessly. Pausing for a moment she said, however, after this fiasco created by him, the impact on Fairy Mo Qing has diminished significantly. Chapter 2142. 2142 Picturesque Reality. 2142 Picturesque Reality. Many cultivators felt that Su Zimo's words were truly ridiculous. But soon, they realized that it was the same for Zither Immortal Meng Yao's remarks towards Fairy Mo Qing. At the end of the day, neither party had any evidence and merely accused with empty words. Aunt, how dare you try and ruin my reputation? Dang! Enraged, Meng Yao attacked and released a supreme divine power. She extended her slender finger and swiped in Su Zimo's direction through the void. A black line appeared in front of Su Zimo, emitting the aura of death as though it wanted to tear him into pieces. Supreme Divine Power, Death Slice. This was a supreme divine power that could only be comprehended after cultivating the Great Ripping technique to its limits and was extremely violent. Meng Yao's jade finger streaked through the void. At the same time that she released the supreme divine power, a faint sound echoed from the void, as though something was sliced. That sound possessed a strange power. Even the many cultivators far away from the battlefield felt uncomfortable when they heard that voice, as though every single inch of their flesh, bones and organs were being torn apart. That supreme divine power was infused with the sound domain killing technique that Meng Yao was well versed in. Even against a grade 6 Earth Immortal, Meng Yao did not hold back at all. Her killing intent was cold and she wanted to kill Su Zimo with a single strike. She had long forgotten about wanting to hunt down Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. Su Zimo's words had enraged her completely. As the Zither Immortal, in Divine Firmament Mainland, she was respected by countless cultivators as a fairy and revered like a god. Like a moon surrounded by stars, she had never suffered such slander and humiliation. Furthermore, the person who spoke was only a grade 6 Earth Immortal. Swoosh! A figure blocked in front of Su Zimo and waved her sleeves, releasing a supreme divine power. Instantly, majestic mountains and rivers appeared before everyone's eyes. The clouds were billowing and it was beautiful like a painting. Picturesque reality. Within the carriage, the plain-robed woman murmured. What? The girl asked instinctively. The plain-robed woman said, "This is a supreme divine power comprehended by Fairy Mo Qing when she was obsessed in the Tao of painting in the past. She's the only one who can release this supreme divine power." The painting blocked the black thread of death conjured by Meng Yao. The two supreme divine powers collided with a shuddering sound. Right in front of everyone, even such a beautiful painting seemed like it could not withstand the killing power of Death Slice. Cracks appeared on the painting in a shocking manner. Qing! Before long, there were too many cracks on the painting and it shattered. The black thread of death gradually dissipated as well. Fairy Mo Qing retreated a few steps with a grim expression. In the clash of divine powers, Zither Immortal Meng Yao had the upper hand. Humph! Meng Yao's expression was cold as she mocked. Mo Qing, I can understand if you're angry with me because of your Tao companion, Yang Ruoxu. However, that ant is only a grade 6 Earth Immortal and has never joined Heaven and Earth Academy. Why are you still so protective of him? I don't want to argue with you, my conscience is clear. Fairy Mo Qing said. Foo-foo. Meng Yao smiled and slapped her storage bag, summoning an ancient zither. Mo Qing, given your capabilities, how many of my zither sounds can you defend against? Meng Yao held the zither with one hand and her other hand had its fingers on the strings, ready to pluck at any moment. The cultivators were shocked. A fight between the two fairies and the possibility of a huge battle breaking out was definitely going to cause a huge stir in Divine Firmament Mainland. Within the carriage, the girl could not stand Meng Yao's overbearingness and was naturally on Fairy Mo Qing's side. She said with a worried expression, I heard that the painting Immortal is the weakest among the 4 great fairies. If the Zither Immortal were to attack with her full strength, she might not be able to defend against it. The plain-robed woman shook her head gently. Not necessarily. Right then on the battlefield, Fairy Mo Qing touched her glabella gently with her jade-like finger and took out an ancient book from her consciousness. She flipped it open rapidly and revealed a page. On the page, there was a divine dragon with towering horns, scales all over its body and sharp claws. It was lifelike and emitted endless killing intent. Fairy Mo Qing tore the page off and held it in her palm, glaring at Zither Immortal Meng Yao coldly. Meng Yao frowned and glared at the page of drawing and the ancient book in Fairy Mo Qing's hands with a hint of fear in her eyes. Princess, what's that in the hands of the painting Immortal? The girl could not help but ask. The plain-robed woman said, That's her painting book and she won't use it casually. The painting Immortal is extremely talented in the Tao of painting. She can depict everything she has seen, be it flowers, trees, birds, beasts or even divine dragons and other races. That doesn't seem like much, right? The girl was puzzled. There are many painters in the upper world who can do that. The plain-robed woman shook her head and explained, Not only can she draw their forms, Fairy Mo Qing can infuse the divine charm and dermic Tao of all living beings into them. It can take thousands or even 10,000 years to complete that painting of the divine dragon. It takes so long just to draw a painting. The girl stuck out her tongue in shock. The plain-robed woman said, "That's right. Every single painting of hers is infused with the divine charm and dermic Tao of the living being. After painting, she will summon the painting and the living being in it will descend once more and appear in the world. Its combat strength will be almost the same as what she has seen." "Ah!" the girl exclaimed. That was way too amazing. Notwithstanding the fact that the living beings in the painting could descend once more through the painting immortal's hands, they could even release powerful combat strength. The plain-robed woman said, "Of course, there's a huge restriction to such method. For example, the stronger the living being, the longer it takes for the painting to be completed and the greater the effort required. Furthermore, once this painting is torn from the painting book, it doesn't matter if the living being in the painting eventually descends, the painting paper will be rendered invalid." The girl understood. In other words, each of Fairy Mo Qing's paintings could only be released once. The plain-robed woman said, "Therefore, if the painting immortal is angered in a life-and-death battle and releases all the living beings in her painting book, even the three of us with our combined strength will have to avoid her, let alone Zither immortal Meng Yao alone." Fairy Mo Qing tore off this painting paper to express her determination to Meng Yao. If Meng Yao really wants to attack, Fairy Mo Qing might fight against her at all costs. In reality, it was as the plain-robed woman had expected. After Fairy Mo Qing tore off the drawing paper from the book, Meng Yao had already thought of retreating. More importantly, after she exerted pressure on Heavenly Abyss earlier on, the latter had already sent a message to his sect. If the chess immortal knew about this, she would definitely rush over as well. At that time, she would be in a dilemma and things might get out of hand. Chapter 2143. 2143 Settled Dust. 2143 Settled Dust. "Princess Meng Yao, let me help you." Perfected Immortal Jing Yu stood out. However, the moment he moved, he felt a chill envelop him. The ice butterfly circled around Fairy Mo Qing and glared at him with strong hostility, emitting a cold aura. He had some grudges with this ice butterfly in the past. Right now, the ice butterfly had already targeted him. If a huge battle were to break out, it would already be extremely fortunate if he could break free from the ice butterfly, let alone help the Zither immortal. Clang! Suddenly, Meng Yao smiled and plucked the strings gently with her fingertips. However, there was no killing intent. Instead, it was pleasant to the ears like the sound of flowing water. The tension on the battlefield dissipated significantly. "Since you're so insistent, Sister Mo Qing, I won't fight you." Meng Yao smiled gently. "We've known each other for many years. There's no need for us to fight over such a small matter and become a joke. However, although you can protect the two of them for now, you can't protect them forever." With that said, Meng Yao put away her zither and turned to leave. Since it was useless to stay here, there was no need to waste time. There was still a long way to go. The grudge today had already been formed and there would definitely be a chance to kill Yang Ruoxu and Su Zimo in the future. Prince Yuanzhua was indignant. When Meng Yao appeared, her might was unparalleled and everyone avoided her. They almost managed to capture Su Zimo alive. Unexpectedly, the situation stabilized once more after the arrival of the painting immortal. Now, even Meng Yao was about to leave. Meng Yao's departure meant that no one could stop Su Zimo from joining Heaven and Earth Academy. At that time, with the backing of Heaven and Earth Academy, it would be 100 or 1,000 times more difficult for him to attack Su Zimo. "Sister Meng Yao, are you leaving just like that?" Prince Yuanzhua could not help but call out. "Su Zimo is extremely detestable. He actually slandered us and said that the two of us had..." "Shut up!" Meng Yao's expression darkened as she hollered. Waving her sleeves in reverse, she struck Prince Yuanzhua on the chest. Bang! The terrifying power of a perfected immortal's attack caused Prince Yuanzhua's body to explode instantly, turning into a blood mist. Many cultivators were dumbfounded when they saw that. Nobody expected Zither immortal Meng Yao to be so ruthless to her younger brother. That tremendous power that destroyed Prince Yuan's body was even enough to kill his essence spirit. At the side, perfected Immortal Jing Yu's expression changed starkly as he hurried to save Prince Yuan's essence spirit. The loss of the physical body was not fatal for heaven immortals. As long as there was a drop of blood, his body could be reconstructed. However, the destruction of an essence spirit was equivalent to death. Princess, please calm down. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu looked at Meng Yao, who had a cold expression, and said hurriedly, His Highness Yuanzhua was unrestrained in his words and indeed deserves punishment. However, no matter what, he's still the son of King Jin. Please show mercy, Princess. Although Prince Yuanzhua's essence spirit was saved by perfected Immortal Jing Yu, he was completely stunned at that moment. The reason why he said that earlier on was because he wanted to agitate Meng Yao further so that she could continue attacking, even if it meant fighting the painting immortal. However, he could not understand why Meng Yao nearly killed him because of that sentence. Su Zimo was the one who said that. Even if she wanted to kill, Meng Yao should have dealt with Su Zimo. Why would she look for him? Although Prince Yuanzhua was at a loss, as a bystander, Su Zimo understood everything clearly. Meng Yao had two motives for doing this. Firstly, it was to vent her anger. She did not manage to achieve her goal when she arrived this time round. Instead, she was slandered by Su Zimo. Naturally, she was pissed and had nowhere to vent the anger in her heart. Secondly, she wanted to prove her innocence. Since Su Zimo said that she was involved with Prince Yuanzhua, she would kill him and use the blood of her younger brother to prove her innocence. Through his two interactions with the Zither immortal, Su Zimo had a rough judgment of Meng Yao. Although this fairy looked beautiful on the surface, she was truly vicious on the inside. She did not care about the lives of others, even her younger brother. She could resort to any means to achieve her goals. How ruthless! Prince Yuanzhua was almost beaten to death. I reckon that the two of them are definitely not Dao companions. Otherwise, how could she be so ruthless to her Dao companion? The crowd discussed. When Meng Yao saw that she had achieved her goal, she could not be bothered to attack anymore. She turned to look at Fairy Mo Qing, Yang Ruoxu and Su Zimo before turning to leave. Fairy Mo Qing's expression softened and she heaved a sigh of relief. She truly did not want to fight or kill anyone. She liked solitude and was aloof from worldly affairs to begin with. There was another reason why she was here. Within the carriage, the girl patted her chest gently. That fierce woman is finally gone. To think that she's the Zither immortal. She's more like a female yaksha. What rights does she have to be ranked alongside you, princess? Tui. Feeling indignant, the girl spat fiercely. The plain-robed woman smiled. Her Zither skills are indeed decent. She was implying that apart from her Zither skills, there was nothing worth mentioning about the Zither immortal. Right. Suddenly, the girl thought of something and asked again. Princess, the painting immortal is so powerful. If she sees a person, can she also draw the person and infuse his dermic Tao and divine charm into it? She'll be quite scary if that's the case. If she sees you, won't she be able to draw a clone of you whose strength is comparable to yours, princess? No. The plain-robed woman shook her head gently. I heard that Fairy Mo Qing draws flowers, trees, birds, beasts, mountains, rivers and all living beings. However, she never drew human figures. Huh, why? The girl's eyes widened in confusion. I don't know either. After pondering for a moment, the plain-robed woman said, Perhaps there's no one whom she deems befitting of art. Or perhaps, the human heart is way too complicated and difficult to portray. You can't judge a book by its cover. The girl murmured softly and fell into deep thought. In midair, Prince Yuanzhua had already used blood to reconstruct his body. Even so, Meng Yao's attack earlier on had destroyed more than half of his bloodline and he had lost a lot of blood qi. He would have to recuperate for a long time in the future before he could recover. Prince Yuanzhua glared at Su Zimo fiercely, wanting nothing more than to devour him alive. He was way too aggrieved. First, he received a mysterious letter. Thereafter, he made sufficient preparations to ensure that nothing went wrong and arrived here with more than 100 execution guards. However, he did not expect them to be completely annihilated. Even he was almost beaten to death by his sister personally. He had already become a joke. It was all because of Su Zimo. Your Highness, let's head back. When perfected Immortal Jing Yu saw that Prince Yuanzhua was still filled with killing intent, he could not help but send a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. Now that the painting Immortal is presiding over the situation and Princess Meng Yao has already left, there's no way we can take Su Zimo away with just us. There's still a long way to go. There will definitely be a chance to deal with this lad in the future. Prince Yuanzhua also knew that perfected Immortal Jing Yu was not wrong. He could only swallow all the grievances and anger in his heart. Let's go. Prince Yuanzhua grit his teeth. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu cupped his fists towards Fairy Mo Qing before leaving with Prince Yuanzhua and Lone Star, disappearing into the horizon before long. Chapter 2144. 2144 Joining the Academy. 2144 Joining the Academy. Prince Yuanzhua, the storm in the Immortal Sect selection gradually calmed down. Yang Ruoxu heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was a grade 9 Heaven Immortal, he was only a step away from death earlier on. If Fairy Mo Qing had not arrived in time, he would have been killed by Zither Immortal Meng Yao. Of course, Yang Ruoxu was puzzled as well. From what he knew, Senior Sister Mo Qing was indeed quiet and aloof from worldly affairs. She was often in seclusion painting on her main peak and rarely appeared. He had never heard of her getting too close to anyone. He had joined the sect for tens of thousands of years and had only seen Senior Sister Mo Qing a few times from afar during this period of time. He did not have the chance to interact with her, let alone speak to her or even befriend her. Fairy Mo Qing's actions today were indeed strange. Of course, Yang Ruoxu did not think too much about it. He merely thought that Fairy Mo Qing had helped him because she happened to pass by and saw that her fellow sect mate was in trouble. Thank you for your help, Senior Sister Mo Qing. Yang Ruoxu bowed respectfully to Fairy Mo Qing. Su Zimo stood out as well and bowed to Fairy Mo Qing. Thank you, Fairy Mo Qing. No matter why Fairy Mo Qing appeared and fought against Zither Immortal Meng Yao, he should be grateful that she saved his life. Fairy Mo Qing had an indifferent expression and did not say anything. She merely nodded and did not look at the two of them anymore. Suddenly, she sensed something and her gaze shifted to an ordinary carriage in the crowd. Amazing! The plain-robed woman could not help but praise internally. Princess, the painting Immortal seems to have discovered us. The girl was surprised. Ever since Fairy Mo Qing appeared, the plain-robed woman had not appeared and there was no activity in the carriage. To think that Fairy Mo Qing would discover them right away in a crowd of millions. As the painting Immortal, Fairy Mo Qing's eyesight is naturally extremely strong. If not for that skill, how could she capture the dermic Tao and divine charm of all living beings in the world? The plain-robed woman said softly. She smiled gently and nodded in the direction of Fairy Mo Qing through the curtain of the carriage. Fairy Mo Qing nodded in return. Yang Ruoxu turned around and looked at the 100 people selected from the Immortal Sect selection. The Immortal Sect selection will continue. Su Zimo, are you willing to join Heaven and Earth Academy? Hold on. Right then, Heavenly Abyss suddenly spoke and looked at Su Zimo. Earlier on, Mountain Sea Immortal Sect was forced to withdraw because of the circumstances. I've already reported this matter to the sect and experts of the sect will arrive soon. Mountain Sea Immortal Sect is willing to recruit you. Imperial Wind Temple can agree to recruit you too, Su Zimo. Heaven Immortal Green Peak stood out hurriedly as well. Yang Ruoxu sneered. Indeed, there was nothing much to say when the two of them were forced to retreat by Meng Yao earlier on. However, the fact that they came back now to try and steal Su Zimo was rather shameless. Only, everyone could read the situation and Yang Ruoxu could not be bothered to expose them. In the end, it still depended on Su Zimo's choice. Thank you for your kind intentions. Almost without hesitation, Su Zimo cupped his fists towards Heaven Abyss and Heaven Immortal Green Peak before saying, I'm willing to join Heaven and Earth Academy. Initially, he was indeed inclined towards Mountain Sea Immortal Sect. That was because on the Dragon Abyss Star, he had conflicts with 3 perfected immortal experts of Flying Immortal Sect, Heaven and Earth Academy and Imperial Wind Temple. However, earlier on, It was because of Yang Ruoxu's persistence and Fairy Mo Qing's timely appearance that he was able to survive. If he were to enter Mountain Sea Immortal Sect now, wouldn't he be an ungrateful person? Heaven Abyss sighed gently with a regretful expression. Yang Ruoxu's expression softened as he nodded to Su Zimo. Come over and stand behind me. Su Zimo obeyed and stood in the camp of Heaven and Earth Academy. At that moment, he truly felt at ease. After ascending to the upper world, the environment he was in was extremely cruel and dangerous. It was always filled with danger and he could die at any moment. Now that he had Heaven and Earth Academy backing him, he could cultivate openly. No matter how strong Prince Yuanzhua was or how powerful the great Jin Immortal Kingdom was, they would not dare to capture him at Heaven and Earth Academy. From this day forth, anyone who wanted to bully the young with their cultivation realm would have to think about Heaven and Earth Academy backing him. When Fairy Mo Qing saw that nothing was wrong, she did not bid farewell to everyone and turned to leave with the ice butterfly, disappearing into the horizon before long. We should leave too. Within the carriage, the plain-robed woman said softly. Princess, aren't you going to stay to see which immortal sect Prince Yunlei will join? The girl said, Princess Scarlet Rainbow is next. After her is Prince Yunlei. Him. The plain-robed woman shook her head gently, seemingly uninterested, and said casually, I don't know which immortal sect he will join, but it definitely won't be Heaven and Earth Academy. Why? The girl asked. The plain-robed woman did not explain and her spirit consciousness moved, controlling the carriage to leave the place as well. In midair, the second person with the most number of coiling dragon badges was Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Princess Scarlet Rainbow's talent and potential were equally terrifying. If not for Su Zimo, this princess would have been the first person recruited by the 4 immortal sects with all their might. Of course, the 4 Heaven Immortals knew that Princess Scarlet Rainbow would most likely join Imperial Wind Temple. Flying Immortal Sect is interested. Heaven Immortal White Sea said in a deep voice. Mountain Sea Immortal Sect is interested. Heaven Abyss added. Heaven Immortal Green Peak chuckled. Fellow Taoists, to be fair, the speed of Scarlet Rainbow's movement technique is her greatest advantage. If she can join Imperial Wind Temple, she can maximize that advantage. There's no need for the two of you to fight. Imperial Wind Temple is the most suitable. When Princess Scarlet Rainbow saw Heaven Immortal Green Peak ramble on, she waved it off. Exalted Immortal, there's no need to say anything more. I want to join Heaven and Earth Academy. The smile on Heaven Immortal Green Peak's face froze and he swallowed his words with an awkward expression. The other 3 Heaven Immortals revealed surprised expressions as well. Scarlet Rainbow, are you sure? Heaven Immortal Green Peak frowned and asked in a deep voice. You should know that you can only unlock your potential completely after joining Imperial Wind Temple. Initially, I wanted to join Imperial Wind Temple. Pausing for a moment, Princess Scarlet Rainbow glared at the green-robed scholar in the Heaven and Earth Academy formation and smiled gently, revealing her petite canine teeth. However, I've changed my mind now. Heaven Immortal Green Peak harumphed coldly and said nothing more. Naturally, Yang Ruoxu was delighted and nodded slightly to Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Scarlet Rainbow, come over as well. Princess Scarlet Rainbow giggled and ran to the formation of Heaven and Earth Academy, standing beside Su Zimo. Little Earth Immortal, I told you that you won't be able to escape, right? Princess Scarlet Rainbow looked askance at Su Zimo with a crafty expression and sent a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness. Su Zimo lowered his head expressionlessly, as though he had not heard anything. Humph, what are you acting cool for? Princess Scarlet Rainbow secretly extended her finger and poked Su Zimo's ribs. To think that the Green Lotus True Body would be incomparably tough. Princess Scarlet Rainbow's poke nearly snapped her finger and she gasped in pain, almost crying out. Chapter 2145. 2145 Outer Sect Disciples. 2145 Outer Sect Disciples. The Immortal Sect selection continued and it was Prince Yunlei's turn. Although all 4 Immortal Sects wanted him, he pondered for a long time and chose Mountain Sea Immortal Sect. For Prince Yunlei, it did not matter which Immortal Sect he chose. The only thing he had to take note of was to avoid Heaven and Earth Academy. That was because Su Zimo had joined Heaven and Earth Academy. If he were to join the academy as well, he would be suppressed by Su Zimo for a long time to come. That was difficult for him to accept. Prince Yunlei did not realize that he had subconsciously believed that he could not surpass Su Zimo. Without anyone interfering, the Immortal Sect selection was successfully completed and ended quickly. The 4 Immortal Sects left Coiling Dragon Mountain Range with the disciples they recruited this time round and returned to their sections. Although the Immortal Sect selection was over, many of the cultivators that lingered around Coiling Dragon Mountain Range were still unwilling to leave and discuss things. It was almost certain that before long, everything that happened in the Immortal Sect selection would spread through the entire divine firmament as quickly as possible. A grade 6 Earth Immortal who ascended from the lower worlds killed more than 100 execution guards. 2 of the 4 great fairies gathered and almost fought. The painting Immortal might already have a Tao companion. Once spread, every piece of news could ignite divine firmament mainland. Many cultivators of Heaven and Earth Academy were on a gigantic ship that traveled through the clouds. The ship was around 30 feet long and had 3 levels. Each level was exquisitely decorated with an ancient charm. There were all sorts of items in the cabins. Standing on the deck, Su Zimo welcomed the breeze and recalled his experiences of the past 3,000 years since his ascension, feeling sad. Both the human emperor and Dai Yu had once said that the environment of the upper world was extremely cruel. However, Su Zimo had not expected it to be so vile. Even with his talent and methods, he barely managed to survive till this point and had encountered countless dangers. If it was anyone else, it would be even more difficult. Many of his old friends in Tianhuang mainland had already ascended, but he did not know where they were. Su Zimo could not help but feel worried. It was especially so for ascenders with meek personalities such as Xiaoning, Tao Yao and Little Fox, who knew what sort of hardships they would experience in the upper world. Of course, even if he was worried, there was nothing he could do about it. According to their different physiques, cultivation techniques and races, ascenders would ascend to different places. Even in the heavenly world, it was difficult for Su Zimo to find old friends who had ascended within the divine firmament immortal domain of the 9 firmament immortal domain, let alone the entire upper world. The divine firmament immortal domain was way too huge. Given Su Zimo's movement technique, even if he did not encounter any danger or obstacles, it would take him dozens of years to cross the divine firmament immortal domain. Searching for someone in the divine firmament immortal domain was even more difficult than searching for a needle in a haystack. If nothing else held him back in the lower worlds, the martial Dao prime body would soon ascend as well. What are you thinking about? Right then, a crisp voice sounded from the side. Without turning back, Su Zimo knew that it was Princess Scarlet Rainbow of the Yen Yang Immortal Kingdom. Nothing much, Su Zimo replied casually. Oh. Princess Scarlet Rainbow continued. You ascended from the lower worlds. Why are you so powerful? Right, what was the divine power of the pair of golden wings you released previously? How was it so fast that you disappeared in a flash? Also, do you know myriad transformations? How can you change your appearance casually? The flame secret skill you released was also very powerful. I'm well versed in many secret skills of fire too. You should know that the Yen Yang Immortal Kingdom was founded on the Tao of Fire, right? In this aspect, even the 4 immortal sects can't compare to us. If you want to break through in the Tao of Fire, we can find an opportunity for you to head to the Yen Yang Immortal Kingdom with me. I'll take you to the library in the palace to take a look. In the past few days, Princess Scarlet Rainbow would run to Su Zimo's side and chat with him. Su Zimo was extremely frustrated, but he could not say it explicitly. He did not chase Princess Scarlet Rainbow away and merely replied occasionally. Compared to Prince Yuanzhua and Princess Meng Yao, while this princess of the Yen Yang Immortal Kingdom was talkative and curious about everything, she was much better than the other two. There was no condescending aura around Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Although she knew that he was someone who had ascended from the lower worlds, there was no contempt in her eyes. Su Zimo gradually adapted to the nagging of Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Slowly, he could contemplate his own thoughts while listening to her ramble without being affected. Although he was out of danger, the uneasiness in Su Zimo's heart did not dissipate. He could not understand why Prince Yuanzhua would appear at the Immortal Sect selection. From the looks of it, Prince Yuanzhua clearly knew his whereabouts. Furthermore, Prince Yuanzhua knew what he looked like after transformation. How could this be? Everyone, Heaven and Earth Academy is up ahead. Right then, Yang Ruoxu's voice sounded. Su Zimo snapped out of his stupor and put aside the doubts in his mind for the time being. Prince Yuanzhua was probably the only one who could clear those doubts. Su Zimo looked over. At the end of the horizon, a series of mountain peaks appeared. Some of them towered into the clouds, towering and upright with countless vegetation and flowers growing on them. Amidst the flowers, majestic palaces rose one after another. If they were slightly closer, everyone would be able to hear a series of shocking explosions. On the many mountain peaks, 1,000-feet-long waterfalls poured down one after another. Similar to galactic rivers, they flowed into the lakes below, causing huge splashes that sounded like thunder. The galactic rivers fell and mist filled the air, forming auspicious clouds that floated among the mountains like a paradise. Su Zimo's eyes were filled with shock. Even though he had seen many sects and paradise lands, they were far inferior compared to the scene before him. Compared to the scene before him, the feng shui terrain of Astral Sect seemed a little shabby. More importantly, after entering this place, Su Zimo could clearly sense that the heaven and earth essence qi here was several times richer than outside. In other words, if he cultivated here, his speed would be many times faster than outside. It's no wonder why the 4 immortal sects and 3 immortal kingdoms are able to nurture so many paragons and monster incarnates. With such a cultivation environment and feng shui, one can cultivate with half the effort. Su Zimo sighed internally. Everyone. Yang Ruoxu looked at Su Zimo and the others. From this day forth, you guys will be outer sect disciples of Heaven and Earth Academy. This is where the outer sect of the academy is located. Su Zimo was shocked. Despite the scene, this was merely a cultivation ground for outer sect disciples. What sort of a paradise awaited inner sect disciples and legacy disciples? Yang Ruoxu continued, I'll send you guys here. After you head down, an outer sect steward will receive you. There, you can collect your outer sect disciple badges. Of course, you guys can also choose some servants in the outer sect to help you deal with some trivial matter. Every outer sect disciple can choose 10 servants. As for anything else, the outer sect steward will tell you. Chapter 2146. 2146 10,000-year meet. 2146 10,000-year meet. Yang Ruoxu said in a deep voice. Additionally, let me remind you guys. Although you've already surpassed most cultivators of the same cultivation realm after entering the academy, cultivation is like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you'll fall behind. You must not slack off at all. In about 1,000 years, the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain's 10,000-year meet will begin. All of you should have heard that as the name implies, the 10,000-year meet is a cultivation gathering held once every 10,000 years. At that time, many cultivators of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain will be gathered. At this 10,000-year meet, there will be the largest marketplace in 10,000 years with countless unique treasures gathered by the Paragon disciples of the major sects and faction. At that time, these Paragon disciples will have the most intense collision to fight for a spot on the Earth ranking. Su Zimo was enlightened. So, the fight for the Earth ranking was at the Immortal Dao meet that was held once every 10,000 years. There were many motives for such a gathering. On the one hand, it was to gather the Paragons of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, and provide them a chance to make a name for themselves. On the other hand, it could also give many cultivators in seclusion a chance to exchange pointers. Yang Ruoxu said, the venue of the 10,000-year meet is different each time. Almost all of them are held in the regions of the 3 immortal kingdoms and 4 immortal sections. Apart from Divine Firmament Palace, only the 7 major factions could hold such a grand cultivation event in Divine Firmament mainland. I know! Suddenly, Princess Scarlet Rainbow shouted and said smugly, the next 10,000-year meet will be held in our Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom. That's right. Yang Ruoxu nodded slightly and continued, there are a total of 100 spots on the Earth ranking. The major sects and factions value the Earth ranking immensely, and it's the same for the Academy. On the one hand, it's a symbol of honor. On the other hand, the higher one's ranking on the Earth ranking, the greater the benefits they will receive. Apart from that, if any of the outer sect disciples of the Academy can enter the top 10 of the Earth ranking, they can join the inner sect in advance and enjoy the cultivation resources of the inner sect disciples even before they become heaven immortals. What cultivation resources do inner sect disciples have? Do they get more essence spirit stones? Someone in the crowd asked. Yang Ruoxu smiled gently. Outer sect disciples can receive 1,000 essence spirit stones a year. Internal sect disciples can receive 10 times that number. In other words, they can receive 10,000 essence spirit stones. Additionally, Yang Ruoxu paused for a moment before continuing. As an inner sect disciple, you also have a chance to collect essence spirit liquid. The crowd exclaimed. It seemed like essence spirit liquid was something that was extremely famous, but Su Zimo had never heard of it. Essence spirit liquid is purer and richer than essence spirit stones. There are extremely few impurities and it's easier to absorb and refine it. When Princess Scarlet Rainbow saw Su Zimo's puzzled expression, she sent a voice transmission secretly. A single drop of essence spirit liquid is comparable to 10,000 essence spirit stones. Su Zimo was secretly speechless. It was no wonder why Heaven and Earth Academy was a heaven-grade sect. They actually had such good stuff. If essence spirit liquid was coupled with the richer Heaven and Earth essence chi in the inner sect environment, one's cultivation speed would definitely increase by another level. Yang Ruoxu left a few more reminders before turning to leave. Su Zimo and the others descended and there was already an outer sect steward waiting below. The outer sect steward's surname was Chen and he was skinny. He was a grade 9 Earth Immortal and looked at Su Zimo and the others coldly. Everyone had to collect a few items from Steward Chen. Identity badge. Upon receiving it, they had to carve their names on it. Su Zimo received the identity badge and rubbed his fingers gently. The identity badge was made from an unknown wood and was extremely tough and indestructible. Princess Scarlet Rainbow came to the side and whispered, "The material used for our identity badges is different from the inner sect disciples. Theirs are made from rare metals and can even be used as dermic treasures. I heard that the identity badges of legacy disciples are made of jade. If they wear it on their bodies all the time, it can even nourish their essence spirits." The Academy did not have any uniform requirements for the attire of disciples and was more casual. Apart from the identity badge, there was also a manual with many rules of the sect as well as reward and punishment mechanisms. The first lesson for you guys after joining the Academy is to memorize the sect's rules when you head back. Don't leave anything out. Steward Chen said coldly, "Don't regret it when you break the rules and are punished. All of you listen up. I don't care what your identities were in the past. After entering the Academy, you only have one identity. A disciple of the Academy." It was clear that Steward Chen was trying to establish dominance among the newcomers. However, for Su Zimo and the others to be able to stand out in the Immortal Sect selection, all of them were paragons and had experienced countless bloodshed. Although they were respectful on the surface, they thought nothing of Steward Chen's words. Steward Chen sneered, "Don't blame me for not reminding you guys. In each batch of newcomers, there are always foolish ones. For light offenses, you might be stripped of your status as an outer sect disciple and be punished to become a servant. If it's serious, you might be kicked out of the Academy or even killed on the spot." At that point, everyone's heart skipped a beat as they gradually realized the gravity of the matter. Sensing the fear in everyone's eyes, Steward Chen looked satisfied. "I'll put it bluntly. If I catch any of you making mistakes, don't blame me for not taking our relationship into account. Of course, I don't have any relationship with you guys to begin with." With that said, he flicked his robes and turned to leave, leaving everyone with a skinny back view. Princess Scarlet Rainbow sent a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness. "Little Earth Immortal, you don't have to listen to his threats. There's an outer sect disciplinary elder. Even if anything happens, this steward won't be the one to enforce the rules." Most of these outer sect stewards were outer sect disciples in the past as well. However, they failed to break through to the Heaven Immortal realm even after cultivating for a long time. As such, they could only take on jobs such as stewards in the outer sect and rely on that status to exert dominance. There's nothing much to them. Su Zimo nodded. "Let's choose a few servants first so that they can help us with some trivial stuff." Princess Scarlet Rainbow pulled Su Zimo and wanted to take a look at the servants area. Although she was a princess of the Yen Yang Immortal Kingdom, She had just entered the academy and everything was new to her. She wanted to take a look around. I don't need servants. Su Zimo shook his head. Princess, go on your own. He intended to enter seclusion right away after joining the academy. There was still 1,000 years to the 10,000-year meet, and time was relatively pressing. When he received the inheritance in Astral Sect, he had accumulated a large amount of heaven and earth essence qi in his body. He wanted to enter seclusion now to refine the heaven and earth essence qi. He wanted to raise his cultivation before the 10,000-year meet as soon as possible. He was the number 1 of the Immortal Sect selection. However, he might not have absolute confidence in the fight for the Earth ranking if the difference in cultivation realm was too great. There was always someone better out there. For example, the Zixian Immortal Kingdom already had a monster incarnate like Yun Ting. At the 10,000-year meet, the Earth ranking would be ranked again and countless paragons and monster incarnates would appear. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.